Good morning. Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network Live. What a day it is in the nation's capital. I love the fall season and the change of colors at your house, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, as we celebrate 1 year since President Trump took office. And I can remember being up all that night, watching the results closely as we closed out the evening, when yours truly called the Peach State of Georgia, when Matthew Alvarez called the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and the glorious Christina Loren calling it in Studio B, breaking down, as she did with meteorology for years and years and years, the board of what happened last year, 1 year ago. 7 swing states. President Trump fought through those. You saw us there on the ground talking to you, the American people, and now we await as he makes an announcement at 11 o'clock this morning. We heard from the Commander-in-Chief last night, the Neville Arena for This Is the Turning Point Tour. In case you missed it, go back and watch some extraordinary coverage on a tour that's really been unlike any other. As Senator Tommy Tuberville, likely the next governor of Alabama, spoke last night, reflecting upon the fact that Charlie was supposed to introduce him yesterday, as we remembered the life and legacy, along with Benny Johnson, Eric and Laura Trump, and Eric calling up his dad, and the president right there ready on the other line. And I believe Laura Trump said it was a bit loud in the arena. We were all the way back up on the fourth floor in section 211, roughly, for those familiar with the Neville Arena, where they play basketball and volleyball at Auburn University. Laura said it actually says Pops POTUS or something of that nature in Eric Trump's cell phone. So the president saying, I love Alabama, and hello to Auburn and the wonderful students on This Is the Turning Point Tour. And again, sharing his condolences to Erica Trump, last seeing her on October 14th, what would have been Charlie Kirk's October 14th for his 32nd birthday, and acknowledging the pain that's been caused from this, but also the revival and the excitement that was and continues to be This Is the Turning Point Tour, which we were so happy to be with local and national colleagues yesterday on campus. Talk to the great students of this university. They're sharp, they're smart, they are ready to take on the world. Gen Z is clearly Gen free, and some great updates, breaking news in case you missed it. After 20 terms in Congress, Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker Emeritus, is retiring from Congress. Thanks be to God for that, because she is someone who pulled the puppet strings, a great fundraiser, have to give credit where credit's due, but was it for the correct things? And we've seen in recent interviews how she has, to a certain extent, gone off the rails, and has really been very threatening in her language towards President Trump, and also rather bizarre in how she treats him on a daily basis. Not very cordial, not very respectful, but we do wish her well regardless, as she will not be running for re-election in 2026. I think that's something that was actually covered yesterday. I remember talking to a student about, is it Congress that is the problem, or more of who's sent to the White House for 4 to 8 years? Is there this imperial presidency, as some have laid out? And really, truly, as she mentioned yesterday, it's Congress. It's the people who have been there for all of these years, like Chuck Schumer and his shutdown having gone on now since October 1st. We are in the longest shutdown, day 37 of that, since 2018 and 2019, a full government shutdown. 10% of flights are grounded and will continue to be grounded at major airports like Chicago O'Hare, Hartsfield-Jackson in Atlanta, Georgia, and both Houston airports of George H.W. Bush International and William Hobby airports, seeing delays up to 3.5 to 4 hours. So I apologize if you are on the road or traveling for work or just simply gearing up for Thanksgiving in a couple of weeks here. So we hope that these Democrats will come to the table. Senator Tuberville covering that last night during the press gaggle, that they're having a breakfast this morning as Republicans had breakfast with President Trump just yesterday. And hopefully they'll come to their senses, come to the table, and really follow the lead of someone like a Senator John Fetterman, who does not want people to continue to hurt, does not want these SNAP benefits to expire, those who are on welfare not receiving those checks, or simply those public employees who are not getting their checks, whether military or in the TSA or something of the other as federal employees. So we'll watch all of this very closely for you as our flag is at half-mast on this morning, a gorgeous morning in the federal city. It's also quite spectacular out the window there in Auburn, Alabama, the loveliest village on the plains. And it's always a real joy to be with you here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. We have a couple of interviews for you this morning. Also, some playback of videos of President Trump, who is at Mar-a-Lago or was at Mar-a-Lago, giving some updates on this anniversary of November 6th and 366 days since a historic election. Now, promises have been made and promises kept by this White House. Speaking on 1 year ago yesterday, the American people delivered a resounding mandate to President Trump when they overwhelmingly reelected him to a historic second term. In just 10 months since his inauguration as the 47th president of the United States, he has moved with unprecedented speed and resolve to secure the border, drive down costs, remove public safety, and unleash American energy and prosperity. And momentum is building for an even greater achievement ahead. Now, as Trump storms back and Trump triumphs again, according to the Wall Street Journal, which is not always the most friendly towards the president of the United States. Here are just some of President Trump's promises made, promises kept, to run you through that in case the leftist media has spun your mind for scrambled eggs. Now, stopping the migrant invasion. Promise made, we will close the border. We will stop the invasion of illegals into our country. He said this back on October 12th of last year. The promise was kept. Under President Trump, the number of illegal immigrants crossing the southern border are at historic lows after his rapid action to close the border on day one. With illegal crossings plummeting to levels not seen in decades and virtually no illegal aliens being released into the country's interior. Promise made, I will immediately end the Biden border nightmare that traffickers are using to exploit vulnerable children and women. It's back on July 21st of 2023. Promise kept, the number of unaccompanied illegal immigrant children crossing into the country reached a record low. At its peak under Biden, 4.6% of illegal border crossings were unaccompanied minors, many of whom victims of trafficking. We know that over 300,000 children were lost under the Biden administration. Secretary Kennedy stating, based on documentation earlier this year, that HHS, Health and Human Services, might have been responsible under the auto pen for some of that human trafficking, which is just beyond disturbing. We talked to Tim Ballard on Monday with his new film, Hidden War, from the producers and the team, including Jim Caviezel from Sound of Freedom, that opened up the eyes to many people not realizing the trafficking that's literally under our nose in the form of labor and sex trafficking, especially of minors. We talked to Senator Tuberville about it last night. The amount of people, minors, having these irreversible surgeries performed on them, either because they have radical parents or they have some transgender dystopia that they're going through, mental illness. And he said, it's a free country. Do what you want when you're an adult. But quite frankly, it's evil for any of these doctors to perform these kinds of surgeries to maim children across the country. Now, Biden was completely for that under the auto pen. Many of these victims trafficked in the first 2 weeks of March. Under President Trump, that percentage had already fallen to just under 0.4% of illegal crossings. So as we watch that closely, we are reminded that flu season is here. And with colds and COVID and the holidays just a couple of weeks away now, 10% off of allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. A smart thing to do as we head into the holiday season, the travel season, and with those longer lines, maybe you're around those who are sick and have the colds. outside of even your family who can come home with that headache, the fever, whatever it might be, and then the whole household is sick as a result. So All Family Pharmacy is helping Americans to stay ready this season with fast, reliable medication that gets to your door within a matter of days. And with antibiotics, 300 trusted medications, antivirals, ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, NAD+, methylene blue, also the emergency medical kits, this is the place to go. Tamiflu as well. Over-the-counter drugs and right-to-try most favored nation status that is not always acknowledged by your pharmacy down the street. Scan the QR code now. Having the right medications on hand means you can act fast when someone starts feeling sick. No scrambling for last-minute doctor's visits or waiting in crowded pharmacies. Everything done online in real time. It's allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. No insurance, no red tape, no hassle, no bureaucracy. Just doctors and pharmacists. You need a pharmaceutical note ready to serve you here in the good old U.S. of A. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Take advantage of 10% off now with code RSBN10. The storm building beneath your feet. The dollar going down in value, purchasing power by 40% in the last 2 decades. So what are you to do? Well, let me tell you about our friends over at Monetary Gold. It's wealth, security, preservation. Grab your complimentary presidential gold guide. Call today. Do not delay. 888-617-7994. They can walk you through how you can eliminate your IRA fees permanently and for life. RSBN4thegold.com. Call immediately to discover how you can do just that. For years, the signs have been clear, but most Americans simply ignored them. Now gold's skyrocketing, over $4,000 an ounce since January 20th when President Trump took that second oath of office under our glorious rotunda on Capitol Hill. Silver past $50, not far behind. It's not luck. It's just simply logic. When governments spend beyond their means, when they have unfunded liabilities, when they have wars that they put on multiple credit cards. And look at 2008, the bailout by the Bush administration to places like Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae. Wall Street bailed out, but not you, the American people. Even as President Trump saves the American economy with tariffs and with bringing that whole globalization into focus and realigning trade strategies, ultimately seeking peace and billions of dollars for America, gold and silver is still good to diversify in because Robert Kiyosaki, a friend of the president, a friend of Right Side Broadcasting Network as well, reminding us that 2 banks failed this year and central banks around the world buying up gold and silver. So again, very smart to do as the BRICS nations, friends and foes, divest from the dollar on the world scale. It's Monetary Gold that can help you out. RSBNforthegold.com. We'll have Scott Cheney later, a senior portfolio manager from the organization, to walk us through some of the new specials at Monetary Gold. Thank you as well to Kalshi.com/RSBN. Who will be President Trump's pardon this year? Maybe multiple. Perhaps our friend Steve Bannon, Roger Ver, or even Changpeng Zhao, who could be pardoned by the President of the United States. Well, Bitcoin hit that 150K mark before March of 2026. It's Kalshi.com/RSBN. Scan that QR code now as we have a nice show prepared for you prior to the 11 o'clock announcement by the 45th and 47th President of the United States, right there at the White House. Having breakfast yesterday with Republican senators before we had the opportunity to meet with Senator Tommy Tuberville, the coach, as many put it, right here at Auburn University. He was posting on his X. We could share that as well today. Just that press gaggle, seeing behind the scenes a little bit of what you saw yesterday when we were asking him questions. He said it's like going back in time as when he was coach and bringing back good memories right there at Neville Arena, just adjacent to Jordan Hare, where you see football glory in the SEC. Just means more. And we look forward to every weekend in the fall with football still happening well through the holidays. November is a good month for football season, both college and pro. President Trump focused, though, on an America Business Forum yesterday as well, detailing all of the successes and the focus on affordability, from healthcare to housing to groceries to gas. And within 9 months, some relief happening, some other goals to be met. But Secretary Bessent making very clear this week that with the tariffs implemented, and with the billions being brought back by these remarkable trade deals with the rare earth minerals, we watched that last week. It was a masterclass at APEC, at ASEAN, those conferences in the Indo-Pacific. Right prior to that, the Australian Prime Minister coming to the White House for that new trade deal for military equipment, and also finding access to the Australian and American markets in reciprocal trade that will top perhaps $13 billion over the course of its time, thanks to this president. Again, with a left-wing individual, a prime minister who is very, very respectful and admires President Trump and the American counterparts that they were dealing with when visiting the White House. So regardless of ideology, regardless of type of party, we see the respect from around the world. And if you disagree with that, feel free to write in if you wish to opine, feedback at rsbn.tv. But I will have conversations with family members as well, saying somehow we're a joke around the world. And I ask, do you have your head in the sand? Are you not watching RSBN? Are you not watching something that's perhaps giving another narrative, an anti-American narrative, or a legacy media narrative that's simply not true, that's posed as fact when it really is simply opinion? Right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, we're very focused on bringing you the speeches, the press conferences, everything in their entirety, so that you can make up your own mind, just as we will bring to you the announcement from President Trump at 11 o'clock this morning. So stay tuned for that on this bright Thursday morning, November 6, 2025. I'm Robert McNeely, right here on the right side of history, as we break down what is taking place in the world. President Trump coming out with many different book endorsements, to having many playback videos, which we will share with you momentarily. We also had the opportunity to speak with Scott Cheney, the senior portfolio manager at Monetary Gold. How do you watch over your portfolio, and how do you watch over your assets, your retirement, your savings, your pension, if you want to build on that generational wealth? More importantly, as Benny Johnson brought up last night, how many want to own a home? And for home ownership, also the coach, Tommy Tuberville, talking about this last night as well. All the hands went up in the room of mostly Gen Z people wanting that American dream. And that's what the good senator and future governor of Alabama is so focused on. He's seeing that slip out of the hands of the American people and of young people at a rate of Gen Z right now is 30% or less at home ownership. This has drastically dropped since even the 1990s. And some of that completely out of reach for a vast number of Americans. So that's why today will be very important to listen to these interviews we have, including Congresswoman Hegeman from the cowboy state of Wyoming, talking about fighting fentanyl, fighting trafficking, and how she really has to put in a schedule unique to other congressmen, because chartering flights in Wyoming can be quite expensive up there in the Mountain West, in the northwest part of the United States. She drives miles and miles and miles to get to her constituents, as she's at large, representing the entire state. The only other congressional district that is slightly smaller than hers is that of Alaska. Sometimes that goes back and forth in population, as that representative is at large as well. In turn, almost they're nicknamed the third senators, as they are the lone voice in the House of Representatives. So it's so important to look at states' rights and federalism as outlined by our constitutional republic, so that equal voices can be had, so that places like New York City and Los Angeles, California who elect socialists or communists to their mayoral offices do not have the ability to control the presidential election solely based on popular vote. That's why we have the Electoral College. So every single state has an equal say in the conduct of their federal government, in turn, their own state's rights, outside of the Supremacy Clause, something that the Democrats, I think, have to go back and reread in their civics class from 8th grade. I remember I had to do that, passed a Constitution test, and I did so glowingly. And many of these Democrats, either they do and they ignore it, or they just simply ignore our foundational principles and see it as what they call, what Ruth Bader Ginsburg called, a living document. No. It's not a living document based on legalism. It is conservative jurisprudence, which is not necessarily conservative ideology of political principles, but rather what you see in Justice Clarence Thomas. The idea that, as Sam Alito and also legendary great justices who have sat on that bench, from Kavanaugh to Amy Coney Barrett to a certain extent. I know certain rulings can be varying, but you look at these folks that President Trump appointed to the bench, and they're focused on it being as written, as originally intended. And that's truly what we have to look at as progressives and far-left activists try to change what we know as a constitutional republic into a pure democracy and even Democrat socialism. The wolf is not only at the gates, it's penetrated through NGOs, through the churches. And as Tim Ballard aptly laid out for us today, we have to remain, or actually on Monday, we have to remain vigilant in all of this, as we will right here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. Thank you to angelpaste.com, the miracle that is the vitamin B OG cream. Experience the miracle today that keeps your skin healthy. I use this every single day. You've seen me use this here on the network, especially this time of year as the cold weather comes in and the dry weather moves in. You get the cracked skin, and sometimes I get that with my hands, so I like to keep them hydrated as it gets drier outside. Orange option, always great this time of year as well. Vitamin C infused, so good to have to keep you healthy during cold and flu season. Also, a natural facial spray to keep everything looking very nice and fresh, to go paint the town red, whether it's the first date or the 50th wedding anniversary. Christian owned. They hire veterans. They're out of Spring, Texas, off the Gulf of America. It's angelpaste.com. Also, thank you to covepure.com/RSBN. $200 off that reverse osmosis system that is leading the way in these technologies. Their Clearwave technology, in fact, removing 99.9% of the impurities out of the drinking water. Let's walk through Flint, Michigan, the lead poisoning that took place, Democrat infrastructure failing. Don't let it happen to you in your neck of the woods. Lead poisoning can lead to bladder infections, kidney disease, stomach and gastrointestinal issues. Say that one 10 times fast. And ultimately, brain damage. You don't want that to happen. JAMA Pediatrics doing a study with scientists and doctors that highlight if children, students drinking out of the tap on a regular basis like they like to do. Got the young ones in my family. They love the summertime hose outside. They think it's hysterical to drink from that. Problem is that you could lose 2 or more points in IQ as a result. And we know what happened with the COVID learning loss. We cannot have any further of that happening in 2025. Utah, Florida, all passing legislation to get the chemicals out of the water, fluoride, pesticides, agricultural runoff. Governors Spencer Cox and Ron DeSantis, respectively, pushing that through as well with their signatures as Secretary Kennedy works with governors on both sides of the aisle to make America healthy again. Drink pure, live pure, get ahead of all of this with covepure.com/RSBN. Scan that QR code there now as we will take a quick commercial break. I'm going to take a sip of coffee here and have a good morning with you, as it always is on the right side of history. I'm Robert McNeely. Don't change that dial. President Trump in roughly 65 minutes.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Tired of being told no by your doctor, your pharmacy, or worse, your insurance company? You're not alone. Millions of Americans are waking up to a broken healthcare system. That's why more and more people are turning to All Family Pharmacy. We believe in medical freedom. We deliver the prescription and the medication, all from licensed U.S. doctors and pharmacists, from ivermectin and trusted antibiotics to maintenance medications, even NAD+, the revolutionary anti-aging supplement. Use code RSBN10 at checkout for 10% off your first order.
Every once in a while, something big happens, something that changes everything. And now, in a defining moment for crypto, Trump Media Group and Crypto.com are joining forces to acquire up to $6.4 billion of CRO, launching America's first ever CRO treasury, empowering the Kronos blockchain. This is more than a partnership. It's the future of finance built in America. For more, visit Crypto.com, where millions trade CRO every day.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from the Diamond and Silk Chit Chat live show. Look, don't forget to check me out right here on RSBN Network. Be sure to watch the show on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. Yes, it's imperative that you do so, okay? I look to see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
Welcome back to Right Side Broadcasting Network. I'm Robert McNeely. President Trump will make an announcement to the American people, and right there at the White House. We look forward to that, as he's put a slew of different truths out regarding videos from Mar-a-Lago, and 1 year and a day since he helped make America great again through your votes. And what a joy it was to be with you on the ground, from the Tar Heel state of North Carolina to the Peach state of Georgia, all the way up to the Badger state of Wisconsin, the Wolverine state of Michigan, and then way out west to the Golden State. Dennis Quaid, who played Ronald Reagan, opening up for President Trump at Coachella with countless extraordinary colleagues. It was the time of my life, really. Lots of fun. And we look forward to the 2026 midterms as President Trump seems to be gearing up. In the meantime, we are on day 37 of the shutdown. As Senator Tuberville said last night, let's hope that the Democrats after breakfast today come to their senses and pass the clean CR through the United States Senate, not filibuster it. Senator Tuberville joining President Trump in calling for the end of the filibuster as a result of this. They need 5 more votes to get to the 60-vote threshold. But he said both on the Republican and Democrat side, some of those senators, they like that power. They like that ability, like Spartacus did from the Garden State, Cory Booker, breaking Strom Thurmond's filibuster of the civil rights legislation dating back to the 1960s. Think about that. And really talking about nothing. He just wanted to close down the Senate because he was worried about the Republicans continuing to codify and advance President Trump's important legislation. And we talked to the senator last night about the trafficking issues, to the mutilation issues that he wants to work on a bipartisan level, to the product labeling issues and the Chloe Act. All of this getting held up because of Democrats' temper tantrum. They want to fund illegal aliens. They want to get rid of rural health care, as Congresswoman Hageman from the great state of Wyoming disclosed to us, as she works hard to not only stop narcotics, but fentanyl trafficking in the United States. Our exclusive interview with the Congresswoman from the Cowboy State for your viewing pleasure. Welcome to RSBN's Live Desk. It is Congresswoman Harriet Hageman, at large, the representative of the gorgeous state of Wyoming. Thank you for joining us, Congresswoman, and talking about reintroducing this fight illicit pill act that's happening. It's bipartisan, and
Yes.
you are working on this with Congresswoman Melanie Stansbury of New Mexico. And I understand
New
that it has
Mexico.
some introduction with a Senate version of the bill as well.
That's correct. John Cornyn from Texas is handling this in the Senate. And he and I hooked up together in the 118th and introduced this bill then. And so this is the second effort at making this the law. What it does is it amends the Controlled Substances Act. And this is a way to try to get at the fact that the Mexican drug cartels are using fentanyl, and they're using these pill presses to make fentanyl look like other kinds of drugs. And that's one of the reasons why we have the ODs that we do, the overdoses, is people oftentimes don't even know that they're taking fentanyl. And so we're trying to find a way to force basically VIN numbers, vehicle identification numbers on these pill presses so that the pills can be traced back to a specific manufacturer, to a specific purveyor of these horrific drugs.
Do we know how the lacing takes place? Is it through the cartels? Is it through China, as we saw that trafficking happening when we did have an open border under the last administration? Because it seems as if now that every state really is a border state, and so many of American citizens, too, especially our young people, being poisoned by this evil. And it seems as if you have no connection to it, you don't know until it's too late.
That's what we have learned. In fact, one of the very first hearings that we had in the Judiciary Committee was to address the fact that our borders were just being overrun by these illicit drugs coming in. And we had a father whose 15-year-old son ended up, unbeknownst to him, taking fentanyl and dying almost instantly. That's how incredibly deadly and dangerous this drug is. And so he talked about the losses, and I believe that his son thought that he was taking something relatively harmless. Perhaps he shouldn't have been taking it, but he didn't have any idea that it was fentanyl and that it was going to kill him, but that's what they've done. So when you ask, does this originate in China? Does this originate in Mexico? I think that there's some of both. My understanding is that the majority of the product, however, is brought over from China and that it is manufactured in Mexico. So the chemicals, the bad stuff is coming from China, but basically in bulk form. And then they use these pill presses to manufacture this so that it will look like a Percocet or even a Tylenol or an aspirin. And it is actually fentanyl, but they use these pill presses to make it look like they are your regular Oxycontin, even, your legal drugs for which you need a prescription, but that has been used in a way that is, number one, getting our young people hooked, and number two, killing them in great numbers.
And we know that this was subject matter, although we wish we could have been flies on the wall for that President Trump and President Xi meeting one-on-one with the Chinese and American counterparts there in South Korea. But we know that tariffs actually lowered at the percentages based on this very issue, including agricultural subsidies like soybeans. But as we move forward with this, we were talking off camera just how much you are still working through day 36. This is a record-breaking government shutdown in totality, and since the last one back in 2018 and 2019. So, Congresswoman, please run us through, especially you're at large in your state in Wyoming.
Yes.
That means that you cover the entire state, in a sense, the third senator, if you will, the sole voice for Wyoming in the House of Representatives. So walk us through your week as you tackle these very tough issues and these bipartisan issues that could bring us together as Republicans and Democrats.
Well, I am as frustrated as anyone else about this shutdown. This shutdown doesn't have anything to do with policy. It has everything to do with blocking the Trump and the Republican agenda. That's what this is about, because it is a clean CR. It does nothing but continue to fund the government at Biden spending levels, because this is the same budget that was in place a year ago. So this is the Biden funding levels. All we're doing is continuing to spend at the same levels on the same programs, doing the exact same thing, and the Democrats have said no. And the reason that the Democrats have said no is because they know by shutting down the government, they believe that they can prevent us from doing what we need to do to represent the American people and our own constituents. Yes, I represent the entire state of Wyoming, and that is, Wyoming is the second largest district in the United States, with Alaska being the largest. But in Wyoming, We're the least populated state. We don't have a lot of air access. We have some, but we don't have a lot of air access from airport to airport. Really, the only thing that you can do internally to Wyoming is to charter a flight, which would obviously be terribly expensive. So I drive everywhere. And I drive when I'm at home between 1,000 and 1,500 miles a week, typically. I was just home over the weekend, and on Friday, I was about 360 miles, and on Saturday, it was over 500 miles going over to Rock Springs and back from Cheyenne. So I'm continuing to meet with my constituents. Right now, I'm in Washington, D.C. I'm actually in my office. I started at 8 o'clock this morning, and I go until after 6 o'clock tonight. I was just looking at my calendar. So I've got meetings all day. Again, I'm meeting with constituents. We're talking about different things that we need to do. For example, for the trucking industry, for our fertilizer industry, what we need to do in terms of when we get the government back open, what are our priorities going to be to make sure that we can pursue the types of policies that the American public sent us back here to work on. So I am doing as much as I always have, working for the state of Wyoming and trying to push forward with policies that I think are in their best interests.
And we appreciate so much you taking the time to join us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network to keep us abreast of these very important issues, especially during the lockdown. Now, President Trump is mentioning on True Social as well for Republicans, let's get rid of the filibuster, which is in the Senate. I thought that Democrats wanted to do that, especially during the Harry Reid years of changing the rules. And we've seen really a new Congress focused on, I guess you could argue, since around 2000, 2001, where leadership in both parties really encompassing the mantle of power. We saw that a lot under the last speaker, Nancy Pelosi. I think that Mike Johnson has been much more fair in that regard, especially for those freshman, sophomore congressmen and congresswomen like yourself who are from Main Street. You want to come in there to make a difference for your constituents and have a lasting, difference while serving in Washington, D.C. Do you share in the president's concerns about the filibuster and being proactive about this so the Republican agenda can be met? Because we saw last night Governor Gavin Newsom using Prop 5 as his mantle to run for president, saying, we want a Speaker, Hakeem Jeffries. He's told us we will do everything we can to usurp the presidency of Donald Trump and the Republican plans.
That's what I say this shutdown is really all about. It doesn't have anything to do with policy other than the idea that they want to thwart the will of the American people and impose their mandates on us, regardless of whether they're good policy or not. In New York is another example of what happened in New York City. There's about 8.5 million people in New York City, and Mamdani won a little over 1 million votes. So about less than 10% of about 12% of the vote is who put him in a position of power, and he's already making it clear that he wants to make good on his promises of turning it into a communist despotic type of regime. You can tell by the way that he acts. You can tell by the way that he talks. I think that Gavin Newsom is saying the same thing. As far as the filibuster, that would be the one thing that would protect against that kind of overwhelming power being concentrated in too few hands. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. I think that the Republicans really have attempted to work across the aisle, and I think that our continuing resolution is an example of that. That was a clean CR. That's why I keep saying that what we voted to do was fund the government at the exact same levels that it was being funded under Joe Biden. The reason I keep saying that is that clean CR just did nothing but keep the government open and make sure that we could continue to pay for SNAP benefits, that we could provide benefits for under the WIC program, that we could pay our military, that we could pay our Border Patrol and our federal employees right here in Washington, D.C. The Democrats said no to that. Now, they've thrown out there that they want to continue the COVID-era Obamacare subsidies. What they're not saying about that is that any person who makes less, four times or less than the poverty level will continue to receive the Obamacare subsidies. What they also don't say is that those subsidies were paid directly to the insurance companies. They didn't go to American citizens to help them pay for health insurance. They were payments to the insurance companies themselves. So the insurance companies, since those subsidies have been in place, have made billions, not millions, billions of dollars from the American taxpayer to provide insurance for people who maybe never even had a service during the period of time that they were covered. That's how corrupt that entire program was. The Democrats put it in place in 2022 without any votes from Republicans. They're the ones who put that in place. They're also the ones who put the sunset in place for December 31st, 2025, because they knew they couldn't afford to keep this program in place. They could not continue to spend these kinds of subsidies, this kind of money. So, all of this, their stated reason for doing the shutdown and refusing to vote for the CR is nothing but, I would say, kabuki theater. It's an excuse to try to stop the Trump and Republican agenda. That's all it is. And they are holding the American public hostage to further what they're trying to do.
It seems as if affordability, whether it's from the tariffs, the reactions to that in the market, Secretary Bessent saying that it will be a very good 2026 with this realigning of the global economy, also with housing prices to pension crises that we've seen in certain states like Illinois, and ultimately healthcare costs. Will these all come into the forefront for the 2026 midterm elections?
I think that they will. These are all policies that we need to address. But anyone who can remember 2010, when Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act was adopted again on party lines by Democrats, shoving it through Congress, getting President Obama's signature on that, they said, okay, this is going to solve our healthcare problems. Healthcare costs are up 80%. Insurance costs are up over 50% since then. That didn't solve our problems. It created more problems. And any of us with a lick of sense knew that it was going to. We kept trying to point out in 2010, what you are doing to attempt to socialize medicine is not going to make access to medical care easier or less expensive. It is going to put bureaucrats in charge of the decisions of what kind of medical care you can get. All we need to do is look at the European model, the Canadian model. What they have done is they have not improved the access to healthcare. They have skyrocketed healthcare costs, reduce the quality of care that you can get, and then ration the resource in and of itself. As they say, anytime that the government takes over healthcare, it isn't about providing better healthcare. It then becomes about controlling costs. What do they do in Canada? I mean, look at the mess that you have there. So these are issues that we absolutely need to address. But the Democrats are not being honest, number one, about why they are shutting down the government, but number two, what Obamacare actually did to our healthcare service and providers and the system since it's been adopted.
Do you think there's anything that could be put on the table from Republicans? Because the counter argument would be, going back to the former president, that this was once, Mitt Romney's plan. This was once a Republican plan going all the way back to Bob Dole. But we know that that was not necessarily true because of the big government grab of healthcare. How do Republicans counter that with perhaps better legislation to allow the free markets? I know that Senator Ted Cruz focused on the cross-interstate sectionality of choice in healthcare, rather than just employer-based.
Well, and it is very important, especially for a state like Wyoming, because, again, we're the least populated state in the nation and one of the most rural. So it becomes very difficult to provide those kinds of services in a cost-effective manner. Now, keep in mind, in the One Big Beautiful Bill, the Family Tax Cut Act that we passed in July of this year, we have invested $50 billion in rural health care. The Republicans did. We did not get any Democrat votes for this. The Republicans appropriated $50 billion for rural health care, and 50% of that, or $25 billion of that, will be divided equally among the 50 states. So for a state like Wyoming, we will be receiving $500 million of that particular pot specifically to address the rural healthcare needs of my constituents. And then the remaining $25 billion will be divided in a variety of other ways. So we're already addressing it. We're already providing ways and giving the resources to states so that they can provide better resources to their citizens. So we've already started that process. One of the things that the Democrats have demanded to reopen the government is the repeal of that $50 billion appropriation and that program. Now, for Wyoming, that's one of the reasons I'm so horrified by their actions. They're always saying, well, this is about the healthcare. This is about protecting lives. Hogwash. It isn't. Why would they demand the repeal of a $50 billion appropriation to provide better resources, more resources for rural healthcare? Because they represent urban areas and they don't care about our rural people. They don't care about Wyoming. They don't care about the people who live out in the country. because they want somebody like Mamdani in New York to control what we can do in the state of Wyoming. And I think that it speaks volumes that one of the things that we have done as Republicans to provide more resources to our states is one of the things that they are demanding that we repeal that so that we can provide Medicaid to illegal aliens. That's another demand that they're making to reopen the government. And I think it's important for people to understand what their demands are, what they're trying to prevent us from doing, which is provide better rural health care, and what they're demanding that we provide money for, which is health care for illegal aliens.
This is why I think civics is so important, Congresswoman, because our constitutional Republican form of government, not the party, the stance of how the government was shaped nearly 250 years ago, leads to that federalism idea so that you, Wyoming, can have an equal voice to, say, a California that arguably illegally is about to redraw its maps. We'll see what happens in the courts after Prop 50. But again, the California governor standing on a pedestal trying to run for that Democrat nomination in 2028. Now back to the illicit drugs and furthering that good, positive legislation that really everyone can get behind. Now with the government closed, we don't have that moving forward as of yet. How can law enforcement and also anyone in any community across their neck of the woods. We have a broad reach here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, and we're grateful for that. How can they protect their community against these poisons and these drugs ultimately, especially their minor children who might be at school and all of a sudden you get an Excedrin, whatever it might be. It's all innocent, an Adderall, whatever it might be from a friend. And then moments later, they're in cardiac arrest or having to be rushed to the hospital or not near a hospital where they could be saved.
So that's exactly what happened to this beautiful 15-year-old young man that his father came and testified before the Judiciary Committee. He had no idea that he was taking a pill that was laced with fentanyl. And so what I would do is I would encourage your listeners to get a hold of your congressman or congresswoman. I don't care if they're Democrat or Republican, and get a hold of them and ask them to support this particular bill. I think it is a good bill. It's something that Senator Corden has worked on for a while. I was absolutely willing to take the reins on this in the House because I think it is very important to protect our communities. What happened over the last 4 years in terms of that open border, one of the most horrific aspects of it is the manner in which just massive amounts, billions of dollars worth of drugs were brought into our communities. And as a result, we're losing our family members, our neighbors. It has just really been devastating what fentanyl can do and has done in our communities. So I would encourage people to get a hold of their representative and to support this bill. And then also, I think it is critically important that we continue to make sure that we are closing that border. But one thing that a lot of people don't understand is that the Mexican drug cartels during the Biden administration moved in on our Indian reservations, primarily throughout the interior West. Montana has been hit very hard. South Dakota has been hit very hard. And what they've done is they've used our reservations basically as their distribution hubs, both in terms of sex trafficking, human trafficking, and drug smuggling. And I've talked to the president about this. I've talked to Kash Patel about it. We had him in front of our committee a couple of months ago, and this was the issue that I raised with him. What are you doing to protect our tribal members? What are you doing to protect our tribes and our reservations from the scourge of these drugs? And he said that the FBI is focused on this very extensively. Now, I questioned Merrick Garland about it, and he basically just blew me off, and he did nothing about it. But Kash Patel has said that this is actually a priority for him. And it's something that I think everybody should consider because we have reservations in a lot of our states. Montana, as I said, we've had hearings where we've brought in leaders from the Montana tribes, and they said that their members are just being devastated by the drug addiction that has been brought over that southern border. So that's another aspect of this is we need to make sure that we're protecting our tribes and our reservations from the Mexican drug cartels infiltrating them and then basically enslaving our tribal members by the use of drugs and the human trafficking, the lawlessness, all of that. We want to make sure we're protecting our reservations.
Yes, especially west of the Mississippi, we have Native Americans who did so much for the society. I think about the Navajo Windtalkers, especially in southern Utah, northern Arizona as well, that in some terrible situations because of the drug trafficking creates these modern ghettos. So it's thank you for bringing that up and to the light so people know about that. Congresswoman Harriet Hageman from the Cowboy State, Wyoming. Thank you for joining us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. Keep on keeping on, and please see us again very soon. Thank you for the time today.
Thank you, and I look forward to coming back.
We're heading into the holiday season. Can you believe that? Thanksgiving right around the corner, Hanukkah and Christmas. It's the most wonderful time of the year. So I know that cold and flu, COVID, my goodness gracious, you don't want to catch any of that. So get 10% off of life-saving medications, over 300, in fact, with code RSBN10. Don't let a cold ruin your holidays. So you get to see your family and friends and all that togetherness. Can really slow things down, especially like a government shutdown that's slowing down some of our flights. Hopefully that ends today on day 37, but regardless, this will not stop you from having life-saving medication, something that's not a luxury anymore, but really mandatory to have in your medicine cabinet. That's why All Family Pharmacy, helping Americans stay ready with fast, affordable access, again, to over 300 life-saving medications: ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, NAD+, methylene blue, emergency medical kits, antivirals, also Tamiflu, so essential to have because those long lines at urgent care to the doctor's office, you just don't want to mess with that. Even pharmacies down the street. There's no scrambling for last minute advice from doctors or, again, those long lines at urgent care, but rather pharmaceutical notes and doctors and pharmacists who want to take care of you at allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. No insurance, no worries. Everything done online in real time for generics that can literally save your life. Affordable as well. You request what you need, a U.S. doctor reviews the note, and your order, approving medication shipping directly to your door. All safe and all about the family to keep you safe and free from colds and flu this season. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Scan that QR code now and get some discounts. RSBN10 is where it is at. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a war happening right now, and it may be something that's potentially invisible until it's too late. It's in your gut. It's a battle between good and bad, the bacteria that determines your health and overall quality of life. Brightcore, made right here in the USA with Kimchi 1, their premier product, can help you break down those microplastics and those poisons that might be lingering inside your intestines, to your stomach lining. Not to get technical and gross, but it could be in your bloodstream as well. Gut health, immune support, and anti-aging properties all in this Kimchi 1. Kimchi is a traditional Korean food that for over 2,000 years has had remarkable health benefits. You might even see it in the stores now, but it's sometimes kind of hard to take down pending your taste buds. Very easy, though, with Kimchi 1. From Brightcore Nutrition, it's the fermented superfood that your body needs to arm the good guys with the right weapons and to defeat the bad actors once and for all. It's almost like throwing tariffs at the Chinese Communist Party. It's like President Trump helping you in your gut. That might be a bad analogy, but all health starts in the gut at 888-722-0936. If you call, you receive 50% off of this life-saving gut health, nutrient support, and vitamin. This contains over 900 strains of beneficial bacteria in each single capsule. Kimchi 1 supports healthy digestion, fortifies your immune system, and helps detoxify your body. The kimchi has also shown to reduce risk of obesity and promote a smaller waistline. So good for digestion as well. Kimchi 1, all natural, non-GMO, dairy-free, gluten-free, 100% made in the good old US of A. If you can't call for some reason, you can get 25% off with code RSBN online. Visit mybrightcore.com/RSBN, but why not call if you have a chance for an additional 25% off and topping that half off right now. Brightcore, Kimchi 1, made in the USA, non-GMO, 888-722-0936. And in case you missed your taxes, April 15th, October 15th, whatever it is, even if you file every 2 years, every 3 years, things of that nature, protect yourself from the IRS, especially as things are changing in the American economy. These experts are accountants. They've worked for the IRS. They know a thing or two, and they're patriots focused on protecting you, the American people, from the overreach of our government And we know that can happen at times ever since that federal income tax got implemented back in 1913. Settle those back taxes today. Protect yourself from the IRS. It's Tax Network USA at tnusa.com/RSBN. Call today. Do not delay. It's 800-357-1415. Tax Network USA, tnusa.com/RSBN. Thank you for sponsoring us on the right side of history. Get your popcorn ready. Perhaps an early afternoon or early afternoon, late morning. What time is it? It's round the clock as we cover all of the breaking news for you here in Auburn, Alabama, to the Federal City and your neck of the woods. If there's a story you'd like us to highlight and cover, feedback at rsbn.tv, or if you have the good, bad, and the ugly, whatever it might be, feel free to write in. If you wish to opine, again, feedback at rsbn.tv. Again, we have a real treat for you. No tricks after the Halloween celebration as we lead up to the all-American holiday known as Thanksgiving, where we praise God for this great nation. Now in a 250-year celebration leading up to that grand birthday on the 4th of July, and right there, a UFC fight live come next summer. That's going to be an absolute blast. We have the privilege of being with Scott Cheney, a senior portfolio manager over at Monetary Gold, to help you fortify your retirement, your savings, your pensions, everything you worked hard for in this American experiment, whether it's buying that first or second property or simply creating generational wealth. How can gold and silver help you do that? Well, Monetary Gold's the best in the business. Visit RSBN.com, and Scott Cheney lays it out with over 25 years of experience in this profession. He has a thing or two to touch on, and we are happy to showcase his thoughts right now. Welcome back to Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's Scott Cheney from Monetary Gold. And Scott, I've been wanting to dive deeper into this. I never asked the question about the entirety of the company, dating back 25 plus years, as folks can now obtain their complimentary presidential gold guide at rsbnforthegold.com.
Right. Robert, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me again. Yeah. So really how we've been in business for 25 years. Now, when we bring that up, we are literally the pioneers in the gold market. Okay. You don't see a lot of companies that have been along for that long. So we're not one of those companies, Robert, to where we sell you gold and silver, and then we disappear. That's not how we do business. That's not how we take care of our customers whatsoever. Customer service is at the heartbeat of what we do. You're going to get updates with us once a month. People will say, oh, I'll reach out to you. They sell you gold and they disappear. We give you updates, current events, how it affects the market, how it affects gold and silver once a month. And that's really important to our customers. That's why we've been around for so long. And on the other hand, in 2008, when we had that market crash where the market went down 40 to 60%, Robert, do you remember that?
Oh, yes, absolutely. It was a really frightening time.
It was. Well, certain companies, they probably sold you gold for $700. And the next thing you know, after it went up and you rode it all the way up in 2011 to probably $1,900, and then all the way back down to $1,200 in 2013. Now, the important part on that is we make sure not only are we updating our customers, but we make sure and we let them know when a good time is to buy and what a good time is to sell. When President Trump in 2016, when he was elected, the auto industry was booming back in 2019 through 2016 to 19. And Trump, when he first got elected, we actually caught wind of this auto industry to where the catalytic converters, okay, were shifting from palladium usage in their cars. So the trade was to buy palladium at $450 in mid 2019, and then it hit an all-time high of $2,700. So that's a 600% increase in just 3 years. Now, we were able to do that for our customers due to the fact that we had the research department. So our whole research department, they've been around here for 20 years. We know when it's a good time, and we can't predict the markets. I don't have a crystal ball, but we have people that have seen recessions, that has seen inflation, that has seen these major concerns and economic crashes, and we're prepared for it. And we're going to take care of all our customers that sign up and that buy gold and silver. So it's really important to keep up to date, Robert, with what we're seeing. And very similar, like it is in 2008, we see the same type of trends. And we are concerned. And I'd be more than happy to walk you through the steps to best suit your needs when it comes to the precious metals industry.
Yes, thank you, Scott, for that, because some people's goals, buying that first, that second property, or even flipping homes to bring in that extra wealth, and then some want generational prosperity and wealth management for the important retirement and savings, the pensions that they've worked so hard for. So walk us through, like 2008, can we see something like a recession occur in the next decade, or even, God forbid, something like a Great Depression? Because right now there is a weakened dollar, and we know that BRICS nations that are friends and foes of the United States, they're starting to divest from the dollar as the world economic standard, because as we did once trade in oil and gas subsidies, especially with the Middle East, so much of that has changed even under this second term of the President Trump administration in regards to tariffs and these high stake, high level negotiations that we see around the world.
Right. It's very similar. I'm kind of going over these notes right here. The crisis, it hit the hardest between 2007 and 2009. And we saw the stock market, it fell 50%. Unemployment rose to about 10%. Millions of homes were lost. Obviously, there were bailouts and stimulus checks. And then we had COVID. COVID hit in 2020. And so these uncertainties of what's going on, just look at the climate right now of our country and of our world. Everyone's on pins and needles. Gold and silver has been around for over 4,000 years. It's been trading for so long, it's not going anywhere. While people are really losing trust, I want to say, in the US dollar, they're looking at precious metals as a great option to hedge against the dollar and to hedge against this inflation that they're seeing. And we're able to do that. And we help our customers in two ways. We can help protect cash, and we want to watch it grow, and we can help you protect a retirement account. And we can do that as well. So those are really the things that we look at, but we have to take a look at what you have. Again, not everyone should buy gold and silver. It's very important. I want to help you. Anything, we want to help you. We've been in business for 25 years to help people, and we've helped thousands of customers. That's what we want to do. We want to make sure that, hey, gold and silver is a good option for you, and let's move forward by doing that. And let us put you in the best position possible in order to do that.
And we know that the world centralized banks, they're buying up gold and silver in droves, and that gold has gone up over $4,000 an ounce since Inauguration Day this year on January 20th. So really a short span of time where that has grown, and silver is not far behind and experiencing a bull market with these hot commodities. Would this be a time to buy right now, or is it more of an individual case-by-case basis?
Great question. We literally, in this market right now, there is never a wrong time to buy. When should people buy precious metals? Yesterday, right? We don't see this slowing down. And actually, Jamie Dimon of JP Morgan, what he said is they had to reevaluate gold from $3,700. They believe it's going to hit $5,000 to $10,000. It says that he wouldn't be surprised. So we don't see it slowing down. We see silver as a huge opportunity, Robert, and we're putting a lot of our customers right now into silver. Not only can it protect it, but we also want to watch that grow. So that is a great question. We don't believe that there is a bad time to buy gold and silver right now.
Now, I'm watching this whole crypto situation as well. We know that big story of the CRO strategy of the Kairos blockchain of Trump Media Group coming together with Crypto.com as well. And I've dabbled a bit in it, but for me, it's more of like rolling the dice or playing with Monopoly money. I know that that's actually something there, and that will grow over time with roughly a $6.4 billion investment happening. And I'm sure that will only rise over time. How does that compare to gold and silver? And is that a way to diversify as well? Because it's something that seems to be in the stratosphere and it's truly invisible, but might be a good option as well against paper money.
Right. So that is a great question. And I'm sure you would respect this. I haven't done my research when it comes to really crypto and how it works. I know that the market is extremely volatile. There's been a lot of security issues when it comes to crypto. But when it comes to Trump and what he's doing for crypto, I really don't have a solid knowledge on that. What I do know is I'm the expert in gold and silver. I know what it's done, I know what it's doing, and we believe it's going to be going up. And what we like to say to the people and to our customers, it's actual wealth that you can hold. It's tangible. It's not going anywhere. It's yours. And so while there's chaos going on, the dollar's going down, inflation's happening, central banks are buying gold and silver at the fastest rate, like you said, in 58 years. We got crypto on this side. Crypto, I've heard so many horror stories about security. I just read online, or I saw on YouTube, that someone lost $3 million in their crypto, their life retirement, their life savings. I'm not okay with that. It's really hard for me to buy things that I know nothing about. What I do know is the performance of gold and silver, how it's performed in the market, how it is a major hedge against the dollar, and I believe in it. I believe in gold and silver, and I believe that it's going to be a huge play when we see the dollar going down right now. We're living in it right now. So.
And now with gold and silver as well, I'm very curious about this over the span of time as we look back in history, going off of that gold standard as we really moved away from that foreign policy implemented by the Nixon administration to move towards that petrodollar and trading in dollars on a global scale. Has it now benefited the American consumer and those looking to secure their retirement going off of that gold standard, or would it have been better if the American government had stayed on that? Or is it completely irrelevant compared to now, simply now because we have a weak dollar versus gold and silver strengthening?
It's a great question as well. What we're seeing right now is when there's fear in the market and the dollar is devaluating, there are people that want to go to really old money. What is old money? Old money is gold and silver. You can't reprint it. So would it affect it? Really, it doesn't. Gold is gold. And throughout history, it's going up in value. I heard or read somewhere to where they say prices of gold don't change. Well, absolutely it changes. When the dollar declines in value and gold goes up, it gets much more expensive. So I wanted to make that clear. I was reading some of the comments there. And by the way, please, your audience, feel free to write some comments in on what you'd like me to speak about next. I'd be more than happy to do that. We have gotten such great feedback on some of the people who market for us that we want to throw this offer in, that if the first 50 callers that call in today will actually add to your portfolio a free silver Trump coin, and will also, again, at no cost, have a lifetime no cost storage fee. So we're going to wipe that storage fee at no cost when it is when it becomes an IRA, a rollover to a gold and silver IRA. We will wipe out the fees of the start.
Oh, thank you for that, Scott. That's a great incentive to get started with this, especially if people are just beginning their journey with gold and silver. And they can write in feedback at rsbn.tv. Of course, we're speaking with Scott Chenet, the portfolio manager, senior portfolio manager, and expert on gold and silver. With this all skyrocketing through the markets. And I guess I would ask next, Scott, is it something that is, really should be on the mind of most Americans in order for that diversification purpose, going towards gold and silver in order to protect your nest egg?
Right. We're almost at a point, Robert, to where it's like we don't need to explain to people why gold and why silver. The writing is on the wall. All the trends, all the news, all what we're reading, we're overloaded right now with information of what's happening in our economy. So much is going on. What has been here and can't be reprinted is precious metals. And we believe in it. And we believe that in markets of turmoil, it will protect you from the dollar. And we want to do that. And we'll walk you through it. We've been in business, and I'm going to bring it up again, for 25 years. We're not here to get one on someone. We're not here to overload them with information. We will step by step walk you through gold and silver, the different asset classes, the ones, how long do you want to hold, 5, 10 years, and we'll give you recommendations on when to sell or buy more. But we are here for you. We will take it step by step. And I believe that every single American should have gold and silver in their portfolio right now. It's something that I believe in. I wouldn't be able to sell it if I didn't, Robert. And it's a great time. It's a great time to buy right now with a lot of this uncertainty that is going on. So that's what I would say on that.
And for RSBN forthegold.com. Yes, RSBN4thegold.com. You can get that complimentary presidential gold guide. So what do you have to lose, as President Trump said back in 2016, to actually look at those options? Now, Scott, you also are able to help assist with the ending of IRA fees. Can you tell us about those? And is that also on a case-by-case basis? Because the elimination of IRA fees might behoove someone to look more into gold and silver as a way to diversify their portfolio.
Correct. Yeah. Well, we want to make sure that you qualify. Again, not every person that reaches out to us, do we recommend them to buy gold and silver. There's qualifications that have to happen to where, okay, you have this amount of money sitting there. Are you living on those funds right now? If you are living on those funds, we don't want to turn everything into gold and silver. We want to help you. The money that you're not living on, the portfolio that you are not living on, let us take a look at that. Let us see what we could do. And if you do qualify, we'll wipe away those fees.
Well, I really appreciate everything, Scott, especially those special bundles you're throwing in. Again, it's rsbnforthegold.com. It's monetary gold, wealth, security, preservations, the best in the business. Scott Chenet, Senior Portfolio Manager for Monetary Gold. Thank you for taking the time to join us at Right Side Broadcasting Network Live, and we'll see you very soon.
Robert, it's always a pleasure. Hey, God bless you. God bless your audience. God bless Donald Trump. And I am praying for this country.
Amen. Thank you, sir. Right back at you.
You take care.
We are deeply fortunate to have Scott Chenet and his expertise to share on a weekly basis here on the right side of history as the 777% truth that the media won't tell you over the past 20 years, a quiet transformation taking place for really the last 2 decades and over the course of the last quarter century. While most Americans distracted, gold and silver skyrocketing 777% in value. The dollar losing more than 40% over the course of those 2 decades. This is not coincidence. It's consequence of bailouts from the George W. Bush administration, unfunded wars, and the slow and stagnant economy from Barack Hussein Obama. Monetary gold, the best in the business to protect you. RSBN4thegold.com. Grab that complimentary presidential gold guide today. 888-617-7994. As Mr. Chenet mentioned, Ask how you can eliminate those IRA fees permanently for life. Don't let that hold you on the sidelines. Protect your retirement and everything you've worked hard for. Gold didn't just rise because it changed. It rose because the dollar declined. It goes hand in hand. 2 banks failed this year. And as Robert Kiyosaki has put it so aptly, gold and silver should be part of your diversification for wealth, security, and preservation. It's monetary gold. RSBN4thegold.com. Thank you as well to mypillow.com/RSBN. The 6-piece towel set back in stock, now under $40. This is almost half off, normally going for $70. But at $39.98, this very limited quantity will go fast. So call today. Do not delay. 800-836-7566. Support Mike Lindell and Right Side Broadcasting Network. Make your night easier, your morning a bit brighter with mypillow.com/RSBN. 2,000 products there, and I use many of them myself. Thank you to Mike Lindell, a dear friend of the network. If you like what you see as your go-to network, everything inside and outside of the Beltway, your Rally Network, your go-to live desk, it's the right side of history at rsbnetwork.com/donate. You may also text RSBN to 801-801. If you like the check or a money order way of doing things, which I understand, it's fun to send a letter nowadays. 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344, the loveliest village on the plains, Auburn, Alabama, 36830, 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344, Auburn, Alabama, 36830. Thank you for your donations. As we take on the legacy media, we're out there supporting our new media partners. They're supporting us, and we're grateful for your viewership and also your money, quite frankly, so we can keep this going. Thank you so much for being on the right side of history. As President Trump will make an announcement at 11 a.m. Looking forward to that from the White House on a splendid day. The sun is shining bright on 366 days after you put him back in the White House, along with your 50th Vice President, J.D. Vance, and the 119th Congress. Speaking of Congress, we are joined by Iowa's 2nd Congressional District candidate, Joe Mitchell, where we'll be momentarily, to break down some of what's happening inside and outside of the Beltway and how he can help make a difference. Real estate developer, also founder of Run Gen Z. And you saw last night the excitement on This Is the Turning Point tour with the Gen Z is Gen Free crowd that is out there, and those lines wrapping around the Neville Arena all across to Jordan Hare. And it's an exciting time to be on a college campus that loves America so dearly and is activated. That's the amazing thing. When I was in college, I guess we had the College Republicans. I ran the College Republicans my sophomore year during the 2008 election. I'm dating myself. But I can remember thinking when the Daily Illini, not an op-ed, their managing editor writing on the front of the cover, I think I still have it as a token of a medal or a gold medal of dealing with the left. They called me a racist for supporting the John McCain campaign against Barack Obama. That was their citing, because I happen to be supporting a Caucasian man against an African-American man who's also of mixed race and Caucasian. We know that Sage Steele lost her job over that, over at ESPN, for asking that very question on her own personal time on the Jay Cutler podcast. And who even listens to Jay Cutler anymore? He was one of the Bears' worst quarterbacks. But enough with sports. Let's get to our friend here, Joe Mitchell from the 2nd Congressional District of Iowa. Thank you for joining us, sir. Can you break down what took place on Tuesday night? Is it anything to fear for Republicans going into midterms, as you are yourself running for Iowa's 2nd Congressional District seat?
Well, good morning, Bobby. And I do have to attest, Jay Cutler was horrendous. I'm a Bears fan, unfortunately, like you. Those are some awful years, weren't they?
They really were.
Yeah. So I'm down in Palm Beach, actually, right now. I'm headed to Mar-a-Lago here in about 30 minutes for a lunch. And here's the thing. I still have tremendous hope because Donald J. Trump is our president. We have the trifecta in Congress. And when you look at New York and New Jersey, they're not the most red states in the world, right? They're not what you consider conservative states. So, what the Democrats did is what they normally do in those states is what they typically win. They're blue states. So I'm not worried really at all. In Virginia, you had Winsome Sears, who was not a Trump person by any means. And she didn't believe in the America First MAGA agenda that we believe in. And so she underperformed. So I think the lesson of the night was you have to stand tall and bold and stand with the president and, what he stood up for, because, voters resonate with the America First agenda. And they didn't resonate with, the Bush Cheney era candidates like the Winsome Sears of the world on Tuesday night. And again, in New York and in New Jersey, I mean, these are blue states or blue cities. And so, that didn't, totally surprise me. Jack did a great job in New Jersey, but he's in a tough spot. And so, I don't think it should be anything to be worried about. I think people are pleased with the president, and, people are happy with his performance and what he's done thus far and the peace that he's created around the world and now his domestic agenda. And he's going to be focusing, I think, really heavily on domestic issues going into the midterm year. You'll start seeing people do a lot better. And they're already doing much better than they were under Biden. By the way, they're doing, people are taking home more pay. Grocery prices are stabilizing. Cost of living is coming down. So anyways, I think what the lesson was is you have to stand by the president, his agenda, the America First way, and, what he's won on in 3 elections.
Yes, and how does that affect your election going into 2026? Your district, heavy in agriculture and also really soybeans. Was that big for President Trump to meet with President Xi and change some of that in regards to the fentanyl tariffs, to the soybean exchanges and trade? How will that affect the great state of Iowa with affordability really being on the forefront of most Americans' minds?
Well, Bobby, if you remember, just a few weeks ago, the news was going crazy before President Trump announced this deal about how bad the farmers are doing. The New York Times had, this fake news piece where they talked about how farmers are turning on the president. And I went on Talk News Radio in Iowa that week, and I said, trust the president. I said, he's the greatest deal maker in the world. I said, he's going to make the best deal we've ever seen for farmers. And within days, he came out with Secretary Besson on the 25 $1 billion of soybeans that we're going to be, or $25 billion of pounds of soybeans that we're going to be purchased. So, the president, ultimately continues to come out and get wins for the American people, get wins for our farmers. And the farmers have voted for the president 3 times in a row, overwhelmingly. And so they trust him. They trust him a hell of a lot more than they do the Democrats. And so, ultimately, he's pulled through for him. He'll continue to pull through, but, we just had a record purchase, from China for our soybeans and, the announcement that they made. So I think, we're going to have, many more deals that are made from an ag perspective. And, the president understands it more than anybody else, has in his position. And so, I think we're in a good place right now. And I think farmers in Iowa understand that the president's fighting for them.
Day 37 of the government shutdown. We're surpassing one of the longest from 2018 to 2019 of a full shutdown. And, in the past, I could see that blame going to Republicans and Democrats, both former Speaker John Boehner with former President Barack Hussein Obama. The way the two would act with one another was rather ridiculous at times. But clearly this one is, House Speaker Mike Johnson, Republican leadership, they passed a clean CR to keep the government open for 7 weeks. The Senate really dragging its feet with hearkening back to what the Democrats did on civil rights in the 60s. They used the filibuster. They claim to want to get rid of it, and then they use it again. This is the Senator Chuck Schumer shutdown. How would your voice from not only the Run Gen Z generation, but also your business background, your Main Street common sense, make a difference in Congress so that this doesn't happen in the future?
Well, Bobby, make no mistake, this is the Schumer shutdown. This is absolutely the Schumer shutdown. You have to have 60 votes in the Senate, which a lot of these Democrats don't understand that, like your voters and the people in the news. And you have to have 60 votes to pass this budget, this continuing resolution, and Democrats are the ones holding out. They know this is a continuing resolution that they've passed, before, and so they're just trying to make the president look bad and Republicans. And so we have to have common sense in Congress. You have to have common sense, really, in any aspect of the government. We don't have that anymore. That's a foreign concept to people. And so I'm going to go in there, and people in our generation, Bobby, they just want the government to work. They're not asking for anything special. They're not asking for handouts, unless you're voting for Mamdani. But outside of that, people just want the government to work and, do what it's asked to do. And the taxes that we pay in, they want to make sure that, they're going to our military. They want to make sure that our air traffic controllers are paid, and so their flights aren't delayed and canceled, and that they do the basic functions that they're supposed to do. And right now you have Schumer and the Democrats, and they're completely incompetent. I think they're making a colossal mistake, and you're actually seeing the president's numbers and congressional Republicans' numbers go up in the last few weeks because they've held the line, and people appreciate that, because we're not going to give $200 million worth of health care benefits to illegal aliens. That is not on the table. And so I think the speaker's done a wonderful job, and Leader Thune and the president at holding the line. And, the president, obviously is not too happy right now with, the Democrats and what they've done. But I think he's made the right choice, and he's held the line. And I think it's, ultimately, time that they make a deal, and the Democrats need to come to the table. But if they don't come to the table, it will continue to hurt them, not us.
Yes, and we experienced yesterday at This Is the Turning Point tour, stopping at Auburn University, having the chance to speak to students wrapped around the Neville Arena. It was really quite an exciting event with Benny Johnson, Eric and Lara Trump, and then also Senator Tommy Tuberville, who was gracious enough to take press gaggle from local and national media. And when asked about this issue with TSA, as you bring up, and also public employees, he believes that many of these agencies should be privatized. Do you see an opportunity for that? And do you share that opinion with the senator from Alabama who's looking to become the next governor of the Yellowhammer State, to privatize TSA in order to prevent what could be starting today 10% or more of canceled flights domestically and internationally here in the United States?
Well, I think anytime you can make government more efficient and privatize things, you should look at that. I think anything's on the table from that standpoint. I haven't seen any specific proposals. I would like to see that. But I think, again, everything should be about efficiency and safety, though. When you're looking at TSA, you have to make sure that things are safe. I think that should be the number one concern, specifically on TSA, when you're looking at, law enforcement, defense components, over a government, but ultimately, I think, you have to make sure that people are safe. But if you can make it more efficient while keeping it safe, I think that should be on the table.
And Joe, where can we follow your campaign for Iowa's 2nd Congressional District, a beautiful part of this fine country of ours?
So people can go to joemitchell.com. They can follow us on X at Joe Mitchell for Iowa, Instagram, Mitchell for Iowa. And so follow us online. We'd love to have your support. We'd love to have your vote if you live in the Iowa 2nd Congressional District on June 2nd. But please go support our campaign at joemitchell.com. Bobby, it's always a pleasure.
Yes, sir. Thank you for joining us. And your congressional district just as competitive as the NFC North. So go Bears. Look forward to watching that this weekend as we continue to do battle on the gridiron that is politics. It's Joe Mitchell from Iowa's 2nd Congressional District. And enjoy that luncheon at Mar-a-Lago.
All right. Thanks, Bobby. You take care. Bye-bye.
You as well, sir. Thank you so much. As we await 2 minutes from now, a scheduled announcement from President Trump. Let's take a quick commercial break for sponsorships and stick with us here on the right side of history.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from the Diamond and Silk Chit Chat live show. Look, don't forget to check me out right here on RSBN Network. Be sure to watch the show on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. Yes, it's imperative that you do so, okay? I look to see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. You can scan that QR code now, RSBN10. That is the code, easy to remember, for 10% off. This is ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, antibiotics that will save you and yours from bacterial and viral infections, NAD+, and much, much more. 200 essential medications and emergency medical kits, the meds you trust delivered to your door. Welcome back to Right Side Broadcasting Network. I'm Robert McNeely as we anticipate an announcement from President Trump at 11 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock on the Golden Coast. Welcome and good morning, America, as we are heading into a holiday season that is one to remember, to be with loved ones, friends, and family, but that togetherness could lead to sickness, colds, flu, maybe even COVID. And when that all happens, allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN already there for you. Prepare before that happens with Tamiflu, 300 essential medications that are life-saving. Ivermectin to hydrochloroquine, the methylene blue NAD+, emergency medical kits that you could take on the road with you. And God willing, this shutdown definitely ends. But Senator Chuck Schumer, we'll see what he does with his caucus. As 10% off now with code RSBN10. Prepare now, having the right medications on hand. You can act fast with common sense and avoid the long lines at urgent care. The place next to my residence, my goodness, that urgent care was through the door the other night. And whether it's working out to sleeping well to cold showers, add this to your regimen with allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN because we want you to stay healthy with these life-saving medications, antibiotics, antivirals, especially, as I mentioned before, Tamiflu. There's no scrabbling for a last-minute doctor. Rather, you have Patriot doctors and pharmacists right here at allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN that are ready to take a pharmaceutical note, review the order, send you the medication, yes, by a licensed United States doctor, all online in real time and affordable. That's the big part, to try off-label generics because some of your pharmacies might not have these things available. So prepare now. And when you're ready, go straight to your door within a few days. It's very simple at allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. If you don't have health insurance, it doesn't matter. They don't want to play that game. They just want to help you, the American people. We're grateful for All Family Pharmacy. We're grateful for you, the viewers. All Family Pharmacy.com/RSBN, code RSBN10, 10% off now, these life-saving medications. As we cover the latest in the Trump White House, it's Kalshi.com/RSBN. Who will President Trump pardon this year? Is it Changpeng Zhao? Is it Roger Ver? Is it Steve Bannon, our good friend? Will Bitcoin hit the 150K mark before March of 2026? Can you believe we're on the cusp of 2026? It's all there at Kalshi.com. Trade, bet, and discuss what's happening in the United States. It's music, it's culture, it's politics. It is the American experiment, now almost 250 years young, at Kalshi.com/RSBN. Trade on anything and scan that QR code and have some fun with that. As you know, I watched these lower thirds and these cryons come by. Can you believe that Kristen Chenoweth was criticized because she said something positive about Charlie Kirk? That's the far left lunacy of what was Hollywood. And now as we go into the holiday season, you have that option to turn off their junk and tune into things like Hallmark. And I know they seem like too good to be true stories, but you know what? I like it. It's all American. Usually takes place down here in the Southeast, around Nashville, Tennessee, or something country related. And we can all relate with that, as there are Many things happening during this Chuck Schumer shutdown, as President Trump calling for the end of the filibuster. Also, Senator Tommy Tuberville, the coach, yesterday during that press gaggle at the Turning Point Tour event, calling for it as well. But President Trump putting out a slew of book endorsements in addition to all of the successes. In case you missed it, cut number 1 from the America Business Forum in Miami, Florida yesterday. 9 months lifting 600,000 Americans off food stamps and into the workforce. Cut number 1, Mr. Producer.
In 9 months, we've lifted over 600,000 Americans off of food stamps, which is a record. 1.9 million more American-born workers are employed today. Think of that. Almost 2 million American-born workers are employed today, more than when I took office. That's 9 months ago. Can you imagine that? And I tell Republicans, if you want to win elections, you got to talk about these facts. You know, it's really easy to win elections when you talk about the facts. And we have more people working now than at any time in the history of our.
As we highlight this speech from our second broadcast yesterday, we have become the strongest with cut number 2, as President Trump is realigning globalization as we know it with bringing billions back to the United States.
I'm pleased to report that today the United States has the strongest economy, the strongest borders, the strongest military, the strongest friendships, and the strongest spirit of any nation anywhere. We have the greatest economy right now. A lot of people don't see that. But if you look at what's happening with all the factories, AI, auto plants all over the country being built, that if you would have thought about that 2 or 3 years ago, you would have said it was the opposite. They were all leaving. Now they're all coming in. They're all coming back and then some. And I think that we can honestly say, and I think you're going to see it even more so over the next 12 months, that this is the golden age of America. This is the golden age.
There's no question this is the golden age, as President Trump is expected to make an announcement at the White House. We'll take you there live when that happens with cut number 3, Mr. Producer. We saved our country 366 days ago, and you peacefully and patriotically put this man back into the White House, and he seems grateful for it.
We're gathered today on the 1-year anniversary of the single most consequential election victory, they say. This is them, this isn't me. I'm a very modest person, I would never say this. The single most consequential election victory in American history. It's possible. I mean, it's possible. We've done a lot. On November 5th, 2024, the American people reclaimed our government. We restored our sovereignty. We lost a little bit of sovereignty last night in New York, but we'll take care of it. Don't worry about it. We rescued our economy, regained our liberty, and together we saved our country.
And the America Business Forum in gorgeous Miami, Florida. President Trump given a key to the city by Mayor Francis Suarez as it opened with cut number 4. Seemed like the beginning of a Trump rally.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the 45th and the 47th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston and New York to LA, where there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say, and There ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA.
And may it be said of future historians as we enter this golden era, the 45th and 47th President of the United States, the modern Teddy Roosevelt, one who respects culture with the MAGA doctrine of peace through strength, of dialoguing with other nations and bringing back billions and billions for the American people through manufacturing so that Main Street and Wall Street can succeed, who put everything on the line with his family. In addition to that, as Eric Trump calling him last night and the president picking up the phone so that he could speak to students directly at Auburn University, roughly around 8:15 or so Eastern last night. Amazing to watch all of that, as this man truly, at the end of the day, is a father and a grandfather who loves his country and his family suffering immensely for it, but doing it all with smiles on their face. Eric Trump is the most subpoenaed man in history for doing nothing. And we're grateful for our commander-in-chief. We're grateful for his family. We're grateful for angelpace.com, the miracle that is out of Spring, Texas. They hire veterans. They're Christian-owned. It's a great group of people, and I love to use their OG Miracle Cream, vitamin B infused, non-GMO, no chemical. Also this time of year, very smart to have in the medicine cabinet or right there on the kitchen counter. Easily accessible, the orange option filled with vitamin C, all natural, non-GMO as well. Experience the miracle that is a facial spray at angelpace.com to paint the town red, whether it's that first date, that 50th wedding anniversary, everything in between. Angelpace.com is right there for you out of Spring, Texas, on the Gulf of America. Angelpace.com. Also, covepure.com/RSBN. $200 off this reverse osmosis system. A system not bigger than your coffee maker, perhaps on your kitchen counter or within the den. Again, great to start your day with clean, pure, wonderful H2O, however you take it, whether with tea, coffee, or hot, cold, warm, whatever you like. You can see there with the demonstration that you could change the temperature on it. JAMA Pediatrics sharing recently that their study found children and students drinking from the tap water on a regular basis lose 2 or more points in their IQ. We can't have any more learning loss after what happened with COVID and the delayed schooling and educational services, pending what state you lived in, especially in Chicago, Illinois. They shut down the entire thing thanks to the teachers union. We cannot have that happen again. So legislation being dealt with that in order to not only keep the schools open, but to get the pesticides, fluoride, chemicals out of the drinking water. In Utah and Florida specifically, legislation supported by Governor Cox and Governor DeSantis. And we see Secretary Kennedy working hard throughout not only his career in the private sector as an attorney, taking on big business and big government, but working with governors on both sides of the aisle to clean water and clean air and clean just about everything. It's a bipartisan issue. It makes a lot of sense, especially Lee Zeldin working hard on this at EPA. And the lead poisoning, remember Flint, Michigan, we don't want any more of that. Lead in the water, it's wrong. It disenfranchises residents and the good voters, citizens of this nation. So get ahead of all of that with covepure.com/RSBN, $200 off right now. Also, Brightcore from Kimchi 1. As I mentioned before, 2,000 years of kimchi in the form of this Korean digestive, really gourmet food, not for everyone. So that's why Brightcore created Kimchi 1, their premier product for gut health, and with over 900 good bacterias, can help with stomach lining to digestion to what happens first for health. It's right in your gut with immune support, anti-aging properties. Call today, do not delay, because you'll receive 50% off with 888-722-0936. 25% off with code RSBN if you visit mybrightcore.com/RSBN online. So it's worth giving them a call first and foremost as President Trump to make an announcement moments from now. In the meantime, we'll go through some of the videos he's been sharing on Truth Social with different announcements and some things you might not know overseas because sometimes legacy media does not pay attention to it. With cut number 5, Mr. Director, the Christian faith under threat and people committing genocide from Islamic terrorists in Nigeria. President Trump is ready to deal with this and will go in guns blazing, as he said on True Social, if Christians are not protected.
Christianity is facing an existential threat in Nigeria. Thousands and thousands of Christians are being killed. Radical Islamists are responsible for this mass slaughter. I am hereby making Nigeria a country of particular concern. That's a legal definition. When the Christians or any such group is slaughtered, like is happening in Nigeria, 3,100 versus 4,476 worldwide. What horrible numbers. Something has to be done. I am asking Congressman Riley Moore, together with Chairman Tom Cole and the House Appropriations Committee, to immediately look into this matter and to report back to me. And I mean, like, immediately. The United States cannot stand by while such atrocities are happening in Nigeria and numerous other countries. It's not only Nigeria, it's all over. We stand ready, willing, and able to save our great Christian population around the world. This is not going to happen. The killing of Christians is not going to happen.
We recently had Congressman Riley Moore of West Virginia interviewed by my esteemed colleague Matthew Alvarez talking on this very issue, protecting Christians in Nigeria, something that needs to be done. And thank God that President Trump and Congressman Moore and Cole addressing this, something that in the meantime you have Mayor-elect Mamdani talking about dismantling the system. Egregious compared to what's happening to our brothers and sisters in Christ around the world, especially in Nigeria. As number 6, our Jewish brothers and sisters celebrating the Republican Jewish Coalition 40 years of activism being on the ground. They were a huge help to me when I ran for state representative in the Peach State of Georgia. President Trump sharing a couple of minutes here from Mar-a-Lago.
Hello to everyone at the Republican Jewish Coalition, and congratulations on 40 amazing years. I want to thank your national chairman, former Senator Norm Coleman, along with your CEO, Matt Brooks, and my friend Miriam Adelson, and so many other incredible supporters, distinguished guests out in beautiful Las Vegas. 4 days from now, we will celebrate the one-year anniversary of the most important election victory in the history of our country. With the help of many of you, we won all 7 swing states by millions of votes. We won the Electoral College 312 to 226. We won the popular vote for the first time of any Republican in decades, and we won 86% of the counties in America, 2,700 to 525. And very importantly, the RJC helped ensure that we won the highest percentage of Jewish vote of any Republican since 1988. I can't imagine we didn't do better than that after all I've done for the Jewish vote, I must be honest with you, but that's okay. 1988's not that bad. 1 year ago, we were a dead country. Now we're the hottest country anywhere in the world by far. Wages for workers have risen at the fastest rate in 60 years, and more than $18 trillion are pouring into the United States from all over the world. We have fully secured our southern border, and we have ended 8 wars in 9 months. That's pretty good. 8 wars in 9 months. We have 1 to go, as you know, Russia, Ukraine. That includes the historic peace deal that ended the war in Gaza. After 2 harrowing years of darkness, our 20 courageous hostages were returned to the loving embrace of their families. And you have to remember, we also got many of the other hostages out long before that. Many hostages were gotten out by us. Israel has never had a better friend than President Donald J. Trump. In my first term, I terminated the disastrous Iran nuclear deal. With Operation Midnight Hammer last June, we totally obliterated Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity. And we didn't even get them by surprise. They expected it, and they got obliterated. After years of broken promises by many other American presidents, I kept my promise, officially recognized the capital of Israel, and moved the American embassy to Jerusalem. I also recognized Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights. Who would have done that? Nobody even thought I was going to think about it. Nobody else thought about it for 70 years, but I did it. I withdrew the United States from the anti-American, anti-Israel UN Human Rights Council. and terminated funding for the extremely corrupt United Nations Relief and Works Agency, a totally corrupt operation. We're also defending our Jewish citizens here in America. Just as I promised, we're deporting the foreign jihadist sympathizers and Hamas supporters from our country, and it's happening very quickly. Upon taking office, I signed a historic executive order directing every department and agency in the federal government to do everything in their power to end the scourge of anti-Semitism in America. My administration has filed historic civil rights lawsuits and cut off funding to colleges and universities that refuse to defend their Jewish students from vile acts of anti-Semitism. And we have secured some of the largest discrimination settlements in modern times. There's been nothing like it. In just 9 months, we have done more to protect Jewish Americans than any administration in history by far, and we're just getting started. We are going to continue to help. Together, we will make America stronger, safer, richer, prouder, and greater than ever before. I want to thank you once again to everyone at the Republican Jewish Coalition. God bless America. I'm with you all the way.
As we await President Trump for live remarks from the White House, we'll continue on as he highlights 9 months in office and all of the successes from Mar-a-Lago, the successful trip to Asia with APEC, ASEAN, and the Indo-Pacific meetings that took place. The peacemaker-in-chief in Malaysia between Cambodia and Thailand, those two kingdoms coming to peace. Also, Vietnam trade accords, all the way over to Japan for military assistance and meeting with the new Japanese prime minister who gifted President Trump with the late, great Shinzo Abe's golf clubs. And remembering him, she is in the same ilk of that common sense, populist, right-wing leadership. And our military, they're doing joint exercises with the Japanese. Love her as well. So what a moment of two great leaders in a strong alliance all the way to South Korea for that business aspect of the trip. Even with a prime minister who doesn't ideologically see the same way as President Trump, recognizes the strength of us coming together on the Korean Peninsula and ending truly the conflict with the North Korean side. Maybe we'll have a unified Korea thanks to the strength of President Donald Trump, who the South Koreans are encouraging to meet once again with Chairman Kim Jong-un. That culminated in a meeting with President Xi of China, and another meeting on the books for April 2026 as President Trump will visit Beijing for a summit with the Chinese leader. With number 7, that successful trip to Asia recapped by your 45th and 47th President of the United States.
I just got back from an incredibly successful trip to Asia, and we brought home hundreds of billions of dollars for the United States of America. We signed brand new, extremely good trade deals with Malaysia, Cambodia, Japan, and soon South Korea, and we signed a historic peace accord ending the war between Cambodia and Thailand. No president has ever brought more business into the United States than I have. It's not even close, and we're just getting started. It really was an amazing period of time. I met with President Xi of China. We worked things out. Great for both countries. We're each making a lot of money, and we're bringing a lot of peace. So thank you very much. This was a great week for America.
Thank you to our great sponsors here as we await President Trump to make an announcement moments away from now. Tax Network USA, it's tnusa.com/RSBN. Settle those back taxes today. Protect yourself from the IRS. Call today. Do not delay. It's 800-357-1415. Whether you started a new business this year, you haven't paid in 2 to 3 years, or simply just missed April 15th or October 15th for various reasons, tnusa.com/RSBN is there to protect you from those back taxes. 800-357-1415, tnusa.com/RSBN. Protect yourself from the IRS. Settle those back taxes today as we thank mypillow.com/RSBN. 6-piece towel set back in stock, now under $40, $39.98. A very limited quantity. These will go. They're all made in the USA in Minnesota from some of the best products from around the world. mypillow.com/RSBN. 2,000 different options. Call today. Do not delay. 800-836-7566. Support Mike Lindell and Right Side Broadcasting Network at mypillow.com/RSBN and save with code RSBN. As President Trump puts it, Mike is the master marketer, and he's a dear friend here at the network. Thank you for helping my sleep get better and for my mornings just a bit brighter with that My Coffee. So many great products. Again, $2,000, but the 6-piece towel set back in stock, so take advantage while you can at mypillow.com/RSBN. We are your go-to live desk here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. So please like, share, and subscribe, but also donate. RSBnetwork.com/donate. Text RSBN to 801-801. Don't miss a minute of the action. Also, for check and money order, 1550. That's 1550. Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344. The loveliest village on the plains. It's Auburn, Alabama. 36830. 1550. Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344. Auburn, Alabama. 36830. Thank you for being with us on the right side of history and for supporting us here in the new media movement with cut number 8, Mr. Producer. President Trump really highlighting all of the wins 1 year after the election victory of November 5th, 2024, and he's calling for an end to the filibuster.
Thune and Speaker of the House Mike Johnson are doing a great job. But the Democrats are crazed lunatics that have lost all sense of wisdom and reality. It's a sick form of the now legendary Trump derangement syndrome, TDS, that only comes from losing too much. They want trillions of dollars to be taken from the healthcare system and given to others who are not deserving. People who have come into our country illegally, many from prisons and mental institutions. This will hurt American citizens, and Republicans will not let that happen. It's now time for the Republicans to play their trump card and go for what's called the nuclear option. Get rid of the filibuster and get rid of it now. We can make our country so strong, so great. We can do all the things that we wanted to do. Just a short while ago, the Democrats, while in power, fought for 3 years to do this, but were unable to pull it off because of Senators Joe Manchin of West Virginia and Kristen Sinema of Arizona. Never have the Democrats fought so hard to do something because they knew the tremendous strength in terminating the filibuster and everything that it would give them. They wanted to do it so badly. We have a chance to do it now and to make our country great again. They want to substantially expand the United States Supreme Court, make Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico states, thereby automatically picking up 4 Senate seats, many House seats, and at least 8 electoral votes, and many other highly destructive things for them. But for us, we can do it. It was their idea originally, Obama and Harry Reid, in order to screw the Republicans. And now we can turn it around and we can screw the Democrats and make our country so strong. Well, now we're in power. And we can do it, and we should do it, and it should be done immediately. End this ridiculous country-destroying shutdown, among many other things. And that's the least of it. If the Democrats ever came back into power, which would be made easier for them if the Republicans are not using the great strength and policies made available to us by ending the filibuster, the Democrats will exercise their rights, and it will be done in the first day they take office, regardless of whether or not we do it. The Democrats want to end the filibuster. It will be done the first day they get into office. Don't you understand that, Republicans? In addition to all the other things that we would get, such as the best judges, the best U.S. attorneys, the best of everything, this would be a concept from years ago of then-President Barack Hussein Obama and former Majority Leader Harry Reid in order to take advantage of Republicans. Now I want to do it in order to take advantage of the Democrats because of the fact that the Democrats have gone stone-cold crazy. The choice is clear. Initiate the nuclear option, get rid of the filibuster, and make America great again. Republicans, you have to be strong. You can't be weak. We get pushed around too much. These are crooked people. You have to be strong. Get rid of the filibuster and let's make our country great. Let's end the shutdown. It'll be ended in minutes. Stop it. Be smart. Be strong and win, win, win.
Lots of common sense there in President Trump's argument as he continued with cut number 9, Republicans, be tough and be smart, from Mar-a-Lago.
Remember, Republicans, regardless of the Schumer shutdown, the Democrats will terminate the filibuster the first chance they get. They will pack the Supreme Court of the United States, pick up 2 states, that's a lot of states, and add at least 8 electoral votes. Their 2 objectors are gone. Remember, Sinema and Manchin, they're gone. Don't be weak. Don't be stupid, Republicans. Fight, fight, fight. Win, win, win. We will immediately end the extortionist shutdown, get all of our agenda passed, and make life so good for Americans that these deranged Democrat politicians will never again have the chance to destroy America. They tried to destroy your country. Republicans, you will rue the day that you didn't terminate the filibuster. Be tough, be smart, and win. This is much bigger than the shutdown. This is the survival of our country. Terminate the filibuster, and let's live the great life that this country is capable of living.
It is refreshing not to have the auto pen in office, and we're reminded just a year ago, crooked Joe Biden was at it with the rest of his cronies with cut number 10.
3 days ago, we officially defeated the worst president in the history of our country, crooked Joe Biden. He quit because he was losing so badly in the polls. He was down in every single poll. But really, what happened was the leaders of the Democrat Party, in a very undemocratic move, the bosses, they said, either you get out or we're going to throw you out using the 25th Amendment. That's what happened, you know that. So now we have a new victim to defeat, Lion Kamala Harris, the most incompetent and far-left vice president in American history. But this November, the American people are going to tell her, no thanks, Kamala. You've done a terrible job. You've been terrible at everything you've done. You're ultra-liberal, and we don't want you here. We don't want you anywhere. Kamala, you're fired. Get out of here. You're fired.
The Fox News decision desk can now officially project that Donald Trump will become the 47th president of the United States.
12 million Democrat primary voters were disenfranchised as a result of the big coup that the Democrats pulled on themselves. And for demos, Democrat, democratic, the Greek for of the people, that was the least of the people move in the history of the Republic. 107 days of a catastrophe for the former vice president, in turn leading way to the most historical election in modern presidential history. Only 2 people have served non-consecutive terms, Grover Cleveland, Democrat from Ohio, and Republican Donald John Trump from New York in the first term and Florida in the second. With cut number 11, Mr. Producer, we truly have an anti-fragile president of the United States. As Charlie Kirk would put it, anti-fragile, you get stronger as you go through the hardship. And that's been proven by the leadership of Donald Trump.
Donald was the young man who was going to conquer Manhattan.
He takes chances that would make a less daring man shudder.
To think about the arc of where he's been in, it's like some sort of mythical story or something.
This sounds like political presidential talk to me.
Donald Trump seems to always get stronger when challenged.
My God, that guy's got resilience.
Those who deal with you underestimate you and live to regret it.
It's always good to be underestimated. It is not about politics. It's about our love for this great country, America, and we're not going to let it fail. I will fight like no one has ever fought before.
Trump is the bodyguard of Western civilization.
You want to talk about a fighter, a walk through fire? He's an absolute savage.
He knows that this is much bigger than him. This is about the American people. They have no idea what they have unleashed. He was ready to go face the cameras and come out swinging.
What will future Americans say we did in our brief time here on Earth? It will be defined by your vision, your perseverance, and your grit. Nothing will sway us, nothing will slow us, and no one will ever stop us. We are Americans. Ambition is our heritage. Greatness is our birthright. And the future belongs to us.
An extraordinary American story of a private citizen who built a remarkable company who has hired countless thousands, whom was beloved on primetime television and made NBC into the marketing success it was in the late 90s and early 2000s. As we await President Trump to make an announcement a decade ago, coming down that golden escalator to make America great again, arguing he could do it better, and there's no question about it, especially compared to the living predecessors, both Republican and Democrat, of this 45th and 47th president of the United States, with last year's historic election where you put common sense back into the White House. Cut number 12, Mr. Producer. Thank you, President Donald Trump, and thank you to the American people.
This week, we're celebrating the one-year anniversary of the most important election victory in the history of our country. We won all 7 swing states by millions and millions of votes. We won the Electoral College 312 to 226. We won the popular vote for the first time of any Republican in decades. And we won 86% of the counties in America, 2,700 to 525. Think of that, 2,700 to 525. All 50 states shifted toward the Republican Party, the first time that's ever happened. Think of that. All of the states, every single state, shifted toward the Republican Party the first time ever. And just think of what our country would be like right now if the election had gone the other way. Another 20 million illegal aliens would have poured across our border over the past year. It would have been a disaster. Your energy prices would be through the roof. Inflation would be at 9, 10, 12, 15, 20%. Who knows? They had no idea what they were doing. Your taxes would be going up massively. Terrorists would be flooding our country, and millions of children would be getting indoctrinated with transgender insanity. 8 wars would still be raging. I ended 8 wars. Think of that. Ended 8 wars. And a band of thugs and lunatics would be running our country. Thankfully, we won, and we're making America great again, greater than ever before.
All Family Pharmacy is helping Americans stay ready this fall flu season with protection from COVID and the common cold, but also flu. Other things don't really protect you so much as do these off-label generics that are affordable and can come to your door, made online in real time with your order through a licensed U.S. doctor. Get 10% off with code RSBN10. Life-saving medications. Don't let a cold ruin the holidays for you. 300 essential medications, including Tamiflu, ivermectin, antibiotics, hydrochloroquine, antivirals, also NAD+, methylene blue, among many others. Emergency medical kits, too, you can take on the road with you. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. All you need is a pharmaceutical note. No insurance, no hassle, no red tape, no bureaucracy. Great doctors and pharmacists who care about you, the American people, patriots. Again, a licensed doctor approves and reviews your medication, gets it shipped to your door, usually within a few days. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN, changing the idea of right to try and most favored nation status as the federal government works diligently to implement those policies and bring the cost down of pharmaceuticals. This online pharmacy ahead of the game. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Now 10% off of that. With the storm that's beneath our feet, the U.S. dollar going down in value, purchasing power by 40% in the last 20 years. That's because of things from the George W. Bush administration, like bailouts to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, to unfunded liabilities and wars. President Trump working hard to not start any wars. In fact, ending 8 in 8 months and number 9 on the cusp between Russia and Ukraine. So what does that mean for your wealth, security, and preservation of retirement, pensions, everything you worked hard for? It's monetary gold at rsbnforthegold.com. Call now, 888-617-7994. That is 888-617-7994 for that complimentary presidential gold guide where they can walk you through a specific plan in order to make your wealth great again. At Monetary Gold, they're focused on the facts that banks have failed. 2 in this year, nearly 500 under Barack Hussein Obama, 16 under the 10 years of President Trump. And regardless of who's in the White House, even with billions coming back to the United States with tariffs and manufacturing for Main Street and Wall Street predicted by Secretary Bessent to be roaring next year in 2026, Still, it's good to diversify with gold and silver as the dollar weakens thanks to the BRICS divestment and thanks to, again, the last 20 years of purchasing power being lost at a rate of 40% by the United States dollar. Gold up over 4,000 an ounce since January 20th, the inauguration day, and also silver not far behind it at $50. The purchasing power is in the bull market with monetary gold. RSBN4thegold.com. Thank you for your sponsorship on the right side of history. As President Trump asks his fellow Americans, us together, this movement united, the MAGA doctrine is far from over. In fact, it's only just begun, as President Trump showcasing in Cut 13 as the midterms really are starting to get underway.
My fellow Americans, our movement is far from over. In fact, our fight has only just begun. We are one movement, one people, one family, and one glorious nation under God. So with American pride swelling in our hearts and American courage stirring in our souls, I say these words to you tonight. We will make America great again.
As Benny Johnson put last night, the left does not know how to meme, so you can smile through that as it is a golden era. President Trump coming out with a slew of endorsements for books. Some good reading on the side as stay well read. You'll be able to talk about culture and society with cut number 14. Nicole Parker, an FBI agent, talking about the two FBIs. Former Special FBI Agent Nicole Parker writing a powerful new book, The Two FBIs, The Bravery and Betrayal I Saw in My Time at the Bureau. Nicole is a strong voice for eliminating the scourge of weaponization that has plagued our system of justice for far too long. She understands the fidelity, bravery, and integrity in those letters. It's more than a motto. It's a call to action for true American patriots like Nicole, who are committed to liberty and justice for all. Pre-order your copy of the great book today, and that link is up there at Right Side Broadcasting Network, sharing that through True Social. Quite a nice media app at Real Donald Trump. Also, Gianno Caldwell, really a telling book endorsement. Gianno, a friend from years ago, a Chicago, Illinois resident. He got his start in the DuPage County Republican Party, much like I did, breaking bread with those precinct committeemen and people who remain friends today. But early this year, his brother murdered by the violence that so often goes untold in the city of Chicago, whether from gang violence or whether from the failures of Lori Lightfoot to Brandon Johnson, the two most anti-police mayors and Democrats over 100 years of rule. Eric Trump covering this last night at the Turning Point rally. It's time for a change in Chicago. And so this book will detail all of that, as President Trump meeting recently with American patriot Gianno Caldwell and political consultant and commentator, writing a powerful book, The Day My Brother Was Murdered, My Journey Through America's Violent Crime Crisis. Gianno Caldwell is a good man, a great American patriot, and this isn't a great read so you can understand what is happening in the city of Chicago, and not talking points, but rather how we can change things on the ground. So thank you to Gianno. This is a book definitely to get, and with a President Trump endorsement. Also, cut number 16, Barry Loudermilk, the congressman from Georgia, has written a book called And Then I Prayed, something to reflect upon, a man who is deeply inspired of American history that were impacted by that of prayer. Nice that a congressman would pen to paper some history of this grand old republic. The sacred duty we have to protect these cherished freedoms, love of God and country, its compelling force that can change the course of history and help make America great again. Peter Navarro, also a book endorsement by President Trump, someone who went to prison so you would not have to. How many people have done that, fighting for freedom of speech and their right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. A love and lawfare story in Trumpland. And Peter Navarro, a dear friend of the network, and one of the greatest guys you'll ever meet, quite frankly. He is doing an incredible job as senior counsel for trade and manufacturing, has written a powerful new book, I Went to Prison So You Won't Have to, a love story and lawfare story in Trump land. Like too many great American patriots, Peter experienced the vicious weaponization of the Comey, the Wray justice system that other half of the FBI, Nicole Parker, talks about in her book, but never gave up, never backed down, never wavered from what he knew to be true. The 2020 presidential election was rigged and stolen. His fearless courage and unwavering love of our country is an inspiration to us all, especially now as he continues to fight with that same spirit to make America great again. The thing that strikes me when I meet people who have been imprisoned, unrightfully so, and then had delays and no right to a speedy trial that deny their Sixth Amendment constitutional rights thrown out the window, they all have the utmost hope in the American movement still. And it's exciting to see their service back in the America government, not wanting retribution, simply helping save the American people. And Peter went to jail because he's effective. It's quite frankly, there's no other way or argument around it. He's a dear patriot, and we are very happy to see the president endorse his new book, including the last cut there, Christina Bob's book, Defiant. A great book to read. Inside the Mar-a-Lago raid and the left's ongoing lawfare, available now. It's a must-read expose as Christina brings the receipts from the deranged Jack Smith investigations and the illegal raid on Mar-a-Lago. The American people deserve to know the real story of Biden's weaponization of the justice system against the president and the incredible movement known as MAGA. They were not after me, as the president put it. They were after you, and I was just in the way. The radical left lunatics don't want you to know the truth, but now you do. Order today. So maybe some good gifts for the holidays, perhaps some Christmas stocking stuffers. I have read one of those, and I'll be reading the rest very, very soon. I look forward to diving deep to defend this republic through the media with you, the good American people, as we await President Donald Trump to make an announcement at 11:47. We love that number, 47 Eastern, 8:47 on the Golden West Coast. I'm Robert McNeely. Don't change that dial. It's Right Side Broadcasting Network.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First news. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Tired of being told no by your doctor, your pharmacy, or worse, your insurance company? You're not alone. Millions of Americans are waking up to a broken healthcare system. That's why more and more people are turning to All Family Pharmacy. We believe in medical freedom. We deliver the prescription and the medication, all from licensed U.S. doctors and pharmacists, from ivermectin and trusted antibiotics to maintenance medications, even NAD+, the revolutionary anti-aging supplement. Use code RSBN10 at checkout for 10% off your first order.
Every once in a while, something big happens, something that changes everything. And now, in a defining moment for crypto, Trump Media Group and Crypto.com are joining forces to acquire up to $6.4 billion of CRO, launching America's first ever CRO treasury, empowering the Kronos blockchain. This is more than a partnership. It's the future of finance built in America. For more, visit Crypto.com, where millions trade CRO every day.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from the Diamond and Silk Chit Chat live show. Look, don't forget to check me out right here on RSBN Network. Be sure to watch the show on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. Yes, it's imperative that you do so, okay? I look to see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
Welcome back to Right Side Broadcasting Network. At 10 minutes to the hour, we're about to reach high noon in the East, and still a good morning to you on the West Coast as we await President Trump to make an announcement from the White House. Thank you to Kalshi.com/RSBN. Will the president make any pardons this year? And who will be the next person to potentially be pardoned? Whether that's Changpeng Zhao to Roger Ver, Steve Bannon. Will Bitcoin hit the 150K mark before March of 2026? Kalshi.com/RSBN is everything from sports to music to culture and the American ethos as we know it. The West Coast to the East Coast, everything in between, this grand nation of ours, from sea to shining sea. So bet and trade on it, because it's a lot of fun this time of year as we go into the holidays. Thank you to Kalshi.com/RSBN. Speaking of this time of year, with dry skin out there, given the colder temperatures, the drier air, especially in this part of East Alabama, angelpaste.com. It is the miracle cream that is vitamin B infused, non-GMO, no chemicals. Also the orange option, very vital this year, to have the vitamin C infused, non-GMO, no chemicals. They're ready for you. All at angelpaste.com. They're out of Spring, Texas. They are Christian owned. They hire veterans, and they're off the Gulf of America. Aptly named. It makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? We're the North American continent. Right below us is South America. It should be the Gulf of America. President Trump changed that, and the Mexican government didn't put up much of a fuss. Just an initial whine or two. But they know a thing or two about being on that golden Gulf, and these products can help you wherever your neck of the woods is. And experience the miracle today with also a facial spray to paint the town red. Whether it's that first date, that 50th wedding anniversary, angelpaste.com. There for you. Again, Christian-owned. They hired veterans. They're in the Lone Star State of Texas. Thank you to angelpaste.com for their countless products. As we await President Trump to make an announcement here at the White House, we'll see if it's in regards to tariffs. We'll see if it's in regards to potentially that end of the filibuster. We're at day 37 of the government shutdown. Of course, that would have to be legislatively done to remove the filibuster. Speaking last night to Senator Tommy Tuberville. And I got a kick out of the press gaggle with local press to some national, whether they call him senator to coach. And he actually posted on his X, and we'll be sure to get it up at some point here. I'll share that over the channels to the X account of Coach Tuberville, the good senator from the Yellowhammer State, stating that it was like going back in time, like the good old days after those football games there. Just across the way, we're in Neville Arena, where basketball and volleyball is competed for, but from Jordan Hare, which is in full spring right now. Well, in this fall season, though, we've seen that Coach Freeze no longer with the university. We'll see where the football program goes from here as we watch that every once in a while with RSBN Sports. Sports means a lot here in the Southeast, especially during football season. So share with us who you're rooting for this weekend. Feedback at rsbn.tv. Please share the good, the bad, the ugly, especially if there's a story within the Beltway. I had a wonderful time speaking off camera with some of the local Birmingham to Auburn, also Columbus. Columbus and Auburn share a similar market locally with local news. And pay attention to your local news, because as I discussed with Christina Loren, our resident meteorologist and expert in that field of storms, and of course a great political analyst herself, as we were celebrating with her just 1 year ago, the election results right here in this studio, as she took care of that wonderful board as she would do with those storms in Nashville, Tennessee, or way out in San Francisco, California, where that bay weather, oh, so nice, although it has that egregious left-wing Nancy Pelosi politics that who knows if it will come to an end, but we know, we wish her well. 20 terms, it's coming to an end. Not running for re-election, Nancy Pelosi out in the Golden Gate Bridge land of San Francisco, California. But with Christina mentioning, I asked her a few months ago when she was on, do people suffer from storms perhaps more often if they're not paying attention to local media? Remember the crazy storms before the election in Asheville, North Carolina? She said, Bobby, absolutely yes. Pay attention to your local forecast because you don't want to be caught in the crosshairs of Mother Nature. And sometimes it does come as a surprise. So definitely tune into your local station, see what's happening in your neck of the woods, as I had some great discussions with investigative reporters. And it's still a fine profession as we seek to make America great again. As we await right now the head honcho, the 45th and 47th President of the United States, to make an announcement from the White House, your house, a museum, a residence, and becoming even more beautiful than it was ever before, arguably, with a grand ballroom. And as we know, with this modern Teddy Roosevelt-esque president, it was Theodore Roosevelt himself in 1902 who began construction on what we know now as the modern West and East wings. We had Harry Truman as well with the Truman balcony, who had the Art Deco bathroom put in, which President Trump recently revamped just off of the Abraham Lincoln bedroom, which looked more back to the black and white marble and the gold shower lining of the 1850s. President Trump, a developer and builder in his own right, and loves to do these projects. So something that looked like it was from The Shining, popular during the late 1940s and early 1950s, looking much more similar again to that of the mid-19th century, even prior to the residence of the Lincolns, and before that with arguably one of the worst presidents, the 15th, Mr. Buchanan, in office. But goodness gracious, Joe Biden and the Autopen administration definitely gave them a run for their money. And I'm sure that Mr. Buchanan is quite happy about that, as I pray he's looking on from heaven as we await President Trump to make an announcement from that very White House. The only president to not live there, the father of our country, General George Washington, perhaps the greatest man to have ever walked earth other than Jesus himself, a man of true honesty, of prayer, and that Episcopalian church right across the street from the White House, where presidents have knelt in prayer for countless generations, including before their inaugurations. Religion a cornerstone, Christianity and those values shaping this great American experiment. And we're all about that here on Right Side Broadcasting Network as we bring you the news of the day, whether inside or outside of the Beltway. And again, if you have a story for us, feedback at rsbn.tv. It's something that we really relish in, to hear what's happening across the entire country. And it's special for us here, being home is Auburn, Alabama, and we cover so much in Washington, D.C. You get a beautiful flavor for both what I like to call real America and the bureaucratic America. But it's getting better in the District of Columbia, especially when Republicans run it, and especially when President Trump putting National Guard troops this summer into the federal city in the jurisdiction to protect it, make it more beautiful. And I know a couple of people who are doing that through various organizations. And thank you. If you're watching, you know who you are, because it's your selfless service, those overnight shifts to even during the day, putting on that uniform, willing to put yourselves on the line to protect this experiment, to die for these very principles that have stood the test of time. And our founders had quite a vision. The 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence coming together. It's God working to highlight the Roman Republic, Greek democracy, to take the best of Western civilization, put it together into this colossus that is America. It's more than a place. It's a birthright, and it's being reborn through constitutional governance and common sense, and through a group of strong people whose resumes are through the roof. I mean, they don't need to do this. That's what's right remarkable about this. Just to take a few of them, think about the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, who took a massive pay cut to serve his country once again. A Bronze Star recipient. I always find it ironic that certain people would criticize, both with the R or a D next to their name, these bureaucratic politicians, someone like that who was in the military, who saw it firsthand, who defended this nation on the war on terror, and specifically the war in Iraq, which was a very controversial war made by bureaucrats like the late Vice President Dick Cheney, as we pray for his family. This week he passed. But you have to recognize that President George H.W. Bush appointed him as Secretary of Defense. He had no military background. Why would you put someone in place without the military background? It's almost as if hearkening back to Henry Ford. I talked with Mr. Producer this week about senior quotes that you put into the yearbook, and growing up in maturity over time, it's questionable for some men, including yours truly. But if you look back to it, I think my senior quote was, who would you have singing tenor in the choir? And I'm botching this right now, but it's a Henry Ford quote. Of course, the man who sings tenor. In other words, it's common sense to put that forward. You would not want to put someone who does not have the subject matter expertise in place. And that's what Donald Trump has done as the chief executive officer of the United States of America. People who are humble, people who are filled with fortitude, gratitude, and warrior spirit. Actually, a lot of the values that are at Turning Point USA. Not only of that warrior spirit, but that persistent innovation and that grassroots humility. These are people from Main Street who have come to serve in the highest and upper echelon of our government, and some not taking pay for it, including the Commander-in-Chief, who takes $1 per quarter and donates the rest. Would you, as a 79-year-old, take on all of the stress and all of the literal bullets, fake impeachments, threats, countless subpoenas, 94 indictments against AGs and DAs who ran to get Trump, and put your family through that as a father and a grandfather? You have to love this country. And it was very clear last night at the Turning Point Tour that Eric and Laura Trump deeply love this country, as does their father, the 45th and 47th President of the United States. At this noon hour, we thank covepeer.com/RSBN for a reverse osmosis system that is really clearing the way with their ClearWave technology, leading the RO structure and that business unlike anything we've seen before. Let's walk through it. 99.9% of the impurities removed from your tap water, fluoride, to pesticides, agricultural runoff, even hormone-blocking disruptors like birth control. You might ask, Bobby, what are you talking about? covepeer.com/RSBN. Let's go to President Trump in Washington, D.C.
Well, this is very exciting because, again, we're bringing drug prices down to levels that will be as possible. Tremendous cuts, 200%, 300%, 500%, 700%, a little bit more than that. So today I'm thrilled to announce that the two world's largest pharmaceutical manufacturers, Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk, have agreed to offer their most popular GLP-1 weight loss drug. I call it the fat drug, remember? At drastic discounts. They're very effective drugs. And so far I've never heard anything bad about them. I only hear good about them. It's pretty. Is there anything bad about them, Bobby? I don't know. I haven't heard anything bad. Someday maybe it'll come out, which will notify you immediately. But so far I haven't heard that, including the drugs known as Zepbound and Wegovy, often called Ozempic. This is a triumph for American patients that will save lives and improve the health of millions and millions of Americans. Amazing thing. They are amazing. I want to thank Eli Lilly CEO David Ricks, a friend of mine. We've worked long and hard. He and I got this whole thing started in a way. And Novo Nordisk CEO Mike Dustar for joining us today. Great, talented people. They make a lot of money. I looked at the money, but they're entitled to the money because the companies are doing very well. Along with Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Secretary Howard Lutnick. Do you take any of this stuff, Howard?
Not yet.
Okay, good. CMS Administrator Mehmet Oz, he doesn't take it. Food and Drug Administrator Commissioner Marty McCary, and Director of Medicare Chris Klump. And we have Steve a year, head of public relations for the White House. He's taking it. The United States is just 4% of the world's population and consumes only 13% of all prescription drugs, yet pharmaceutical companies make 75% of their profits from the American customer. I would say that's not so good, right? It's not exactly great. To address this chronic unfairness, I signed an executive order earlier this year instructing my administration to do everything in our power to implement most favored nations drug pricing, something that has been helped greatly by tariffs, because when nations refuse to do it, we should have put this in the case yesterday. I just say, well, if you're not going to do it, we're going to charge you a like amount of tariffs. And they immediately say, we'll do it, which means that Americans should pay no more than the lowest price offered anywhere in the world. So that you've heard for years the disparity where you'll pay $150 for a pill in New York and you'll pay $10 for a pill in London. Now you're going to pay $20 both, because the world is a little bit bigger than the U.S., so it goes up that way. But you'll pay $20 and $20. A tremendous advantage to our country after years of being abused by the world system. Already Pfizer, AstraZeneca, and EMD, Serrano, have agreed to drastically lower their prices for American patients. And today, Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk are joining the phenomenal list of the most exciting announcements. I mean, nobody's ever had announcements like, and this has to do with other pharmaceutical products also. But we're covering this today because it's such a big seller. I guess it's the number one selling thing there is today. These are two companies that behind the groundbreaking weight loss drugs that have helped millions of Americans struggling with obesity live better, longer lives, everything else. These are the two companies that really broke ground. Until now, neither of these two popular drugs have been covered by Medicare for weight loss, and they've only rarely been covered by Medicaid. They've often cost consumers more than $1,000 per month, and some a lot more than that. Americans have been spending as much as 520% more for Zepbound and 1,400% more for Wegovy than patients in Europe. Think of that. 1,400% more than a patient in Europe for the exact same box. And that ends starting today. The other countries are not happy with us. Now, I don't think they like me too much, Bobby, but that's okay. Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk are committing to offer Zepbound and Wegovy at most favored nations rates for American patients. This will slash the cost of Wegovy from $1,350 a month to ultimately $250 a month. $1,350 to $250. Did I do a good job? They don't write about it. You know, they like to not write these things. And reduce, you think Biden could have done this? I don't think so. And reduce the monthly cost of Zepbound from $1,080 to $346. In addition, they're both committing that future GLP-1 weight loss drugs taken orally, which are currently under development, will be sold at no more than $149 per month. It's a massive, think of that. You go from $1,300 to $149 a month. We anticipate these new versions will be coming out in a very short period of time. All of these drugs will be available directly to the consumer at TrumpRx.gov. Trump, they want to use my name. Trump, it better be good. TrumpRx.gov. And I think it's turning out to be pretty amazing, right, Oz? Just as significantly, Medicare and Medicaid will finally cover the cost of these weight loss drugs for millions of patients suffering from obesity. Co-pays for Medicare patients will be as low as $50. This is tremendous savings. I mean, now you're talking about from $1,350 to $50. This is tremendous news for the American seniors. And you all remember when I had 1/8 of 1% for the year. I cut it 1/8, and I was so thrilled. But now we're cutting it 1,000%, 1,200%. Nobody's ever seen anything like this. Nobody else could have done it, but I say that modestly. In addition, you think it was easy dealing with these people? It wasn't. You think it was easy saying your drug, Mr. Eli Lilly, that we're selling for $1,300 is going to be sold for $250? You know the amazing thing? The stocks all went up. I mean, these guys they're fantastic. Because it's going to equalize the world. The world's a bigger place, and it's going to equalize. I was a little surprised to see that, but I'm happy about it. In addition, Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk have agreed to provide all of their other medications to Medicaid at most favored nations prices. Most favored nations, meaning that you will pay the lowest price anywhere in the world. That's what you're going to pay. Whereas before, they paid low prices, and we paid, thousands of percentile ahead more. And to sell these drugs to all consumers at deeply discounted prices via TrumpRx.com. When is TrumpRx.com opening?
The site is open. It will launch in terms of giving people prices before the end of the year.
Yeah, got to make sure it's successful. It's got my name on it. I don't want to be like so many others. I don't want to be like the train they're building in California, okay, which has about a 15,000% cost overrun. Or the beautiful Obama building that he's building in Chicago for the museum, which is now shuttered up and dead. They got it up, and they couldn't finish. It's about, would you say, 5 years behind schedule? And about 2,000% over budget. Then he tells us how to run Medicaid. Many of the most widely used drugs will be available for 60% off, or even more than that. In addition, all new medications introduced by Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk to the American market will be sold at the heavily reduced most favored nations price. Most favored nations price, that's the best, because they have been thousands of percent lower than what we were selling in many cases. Furthermore, Eli Lilly is investing $27 billion. That's all? And Novo Nordisk will invest $10 billion. That's all? That's peanuts. In the United States to reshore, do a big domestic manufacturing job in the facilities they're going to spend. So Eli Lilly spent $27 billion. Novo is spending $10 billion in the United States. So they're building new plant and equipment. That's part of what will be $20 or $21 trillion this year. There's never been anything like it. I know nobody talks about it, but there's never been anything like, I would say, you would say that there's never been anything like this ever, whether it's China or Europe, or you could take all of Europe, there's never been anything like this. So we're already past 17 trillion. We're going to be, I think by the time the year closes out, we'll have investments of over $21 trillion based on the way we're going. And by the way, tariffs are very important. Without tariffs, perhaps it could be a little bit different, to put it mildly. Tariffs are so important. The decision in the Supreme Court would be devastating to our country if we got a negative, devastating if we got a negative decision. But this is a great day for American health and health care, and for all of American patients. These are things that are miracles to have this happen. And we're bringing all our medicines, again, because of tariffs, we're bringing all our medicines. If you remember where during COVID, we made almost no medicine here. We had to go to China, we had to go to Ireland, we had to go to other places, UK, to get our medicine. We didn't make it here. Now we're making it, we'll soon be making it all here, again, because of tariffs. And my election, but because of tariffs much more. For years, politicians have talked about making health care affordable, but my administration is actually doing it. Americans deserve the best health care in the world, and we're now getting the best health care at the lowest price. So I'd like to ask somebody who's doing a fantastic job, Secretary Kennedy, to say a few words, followed by Dr. Oz, Dr. Klump, and then Eli Lilly, CEO David Ricks, and Novo Nordisk CEO Mike Dustar. These are incredible stars in that business. Like Dustar is a big star. And I can tell you that David Ricks is one of the hottest people in the world in business. But the business that he's in is pharmaceutical. And the job he's done with Eli Lilly is incredible. Both of these gentlemen, they really are stars in the truest sense. And it's an honor to have you in the White House. And go to it, Bobby.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to start by thanking you, Mr. President, for declaring war on chronic disease in this country. This is something no American president has ever done. If we want to solve the chronic disease crisis, we have to tackle obesity. Obesity is the #1 driver of chronic disease. 50% of our adult population are obese or overweight, and it drives about 50% of healthcare costs in this country. Diabetes, cardiac diseases, we are going to see a decline because of this historic agreement. We're going to see a decline in costs, but also, more importantly, in the afflictions themselves. President Trump is the friend of the forgotten American. Obesity is a disease of poverty, overwhelmingly. And these drugs have only been available for people who have wealth. At one point, the majority of prescriptions, the highest concentration of prescriptions in this country, was the Upper West Side of Manhattan. And what about the people who live in rural areas, who live in food deserts? What about the people in urban areas who live in food deserts and are suffering from obesity and are locked into that system where they can only get ultra-processed foods, which are aggravating the problem? This will be a lifesaver to them. It's not a panacea. It's not a silver bullet. President Trump has also instructed us to address and end the root causes of chronic disease, and we're doing that. We're about to release dietary guidelines that are going to change the food culture in this country. They're going to change the kind of food the military gets. They're going to change the kind of food that our children get. We're releasing those in December. The Presidential Council for Physical Fitness is going to get more Americans into, particularly our children, into physical activity so that we can attack the root causes of this. But in the meantime, there's nothing more important than we can do than lower this price. As I said, it is the #1 cost of all drugs. This is the biggest drug in our country. That's why this is the most important of all the MFN announcements we've made. This is going to have the biggest impact on the American people. All Americans, even those who are not on Medicaid and Medicare, are going to be able to get the same price for their drugs, for their GLP drugs. This happened because of the vision of David Ricks, of Mike Dusar, and the other people, and the people on our team who figured out a way to align the interests of the shareholders of their company with the health of the American public. And it is a momentous accomplishment. It took months and months of negotiations. And I had a wonderful conversation with Mike Dusar about his experience. And he thanked me for the caliber of people who are on our side of the negotiating team. Chris Klump, who walked away from $1 billion business in order to join this administration. Emma Hernandez, David Brooks, and of course, Dr. Oz and Marty McGarry, who made this happen. They saw that this could be a win-win situation, that this was not a zero-sum game. The Biden administration tried to solve this problem unsuccessfully, I might add, by throwing $40 billion at it. They were able to achieve an agreement that will actually create savings for the American public. So we're making all of this available at a savings, and that's because the price of diabetes prescriptions is also going to drop. And the savings that we get from that are now going to make it available to people who do not have diabetes. People who have a BMI of 27 and above, or pre-diabetic, or have heart disease risk, they will be able to get it, but everybody will be able to get this drug, and it's going to change. We will lose, the American public, because of this agreement, will lose 125 million pounds by this time next year. It is going to have dramatic effects on human health in this country. And I want to thank President Trump for his leadership. He said that I'd gotten a lot done as HHS secretary, but almost none of that is due to my ability. It's because I'm surrounded by people who are smarter than me, who are more able than me, and those people came into the administration because they were inspired by President Trump. People like Chris Klump are here because they see this.
Do you think they are smarter than you and more
Yeah.
able? No.
Believe me, they're a lot smarter than I am.
He doesn't really mean that he's being modest, I promise you. But it's a beautiful thing to say, Bobby. It's a beautiful thing.
But I want to thank you, Mr. President, because you've made me a success here by allowing me to attract these extraordinary people. And I want to again thank David Ricks, who we've been in this Oval Office again and again. You keep saying he's the smartest guy in industry, that he could talk a dog off a meat truck. But it came to the table, and Mike Newstar told me, he said,
Convinced people for 20 years that it was okay for Europe to pay $10 and for America to pay $140. That's why they make $45-50 million a year. He did. Finally, I said, I've had it, right?
You did.
He did. But anybody could do that, and they're entitled. But now it's down to what it should be.
And Mike Newstar told me what a pleasure it was to negotiate with people who were smart, who had common sense, who were able to put themselves in his position and hammer out this deal that is good for everybody. And it's great for the American public. I want to close again by just saying that this is a tool in the toolkit. It is not a silver bullet. It is an arrow in our quiver. It will allow a lot of people who are locked into high-risk obesity to finally lose weight, to reset, and then start doing the kind of things that will address the root causes of obesity. So I want to thank these extraordinary CEOs for sticking with us on this, for allowing us to make this happen. Mike Newstar said to me, he said, we've known we've had to do this for many years. We just haven't been able to get over the edge, and that this President Trump's order, his executive order, was a catalyst to do something that we always knew needed to be done. So again, thank you for your vision, for your commitment, and thank you to all the CEOs and all of my team for making this historic agreement happen.
Bobby, you haven't changed your view on Tylenol for women that are pregnant?
No. As I said.
There were some false reports out about Tylenol that Bobby changed his view. I don't think he's changed.
I'm not going to change until the science changes, and the science does not look like it's changing. It's getting stronger and stronger. Every day, what we recommend is that pregnant mothers, talk to their physicians, that the mothers of small kids talk to their physicians, and we've advised the physicians to reduce the thresholds and to reduce the amount of Tylenol that they give to children as much as possible, and only use it when it's absolutely critical.
Thank you. So we're going to go through some of the deal points, but it does make itself clear that the real stake here is the forgotten man. President Trump, I believe you won the election because you remember the forgotten man. You speak to them, they hear you, they listen to you, and he connects well because he actually does things that materially change their lives. Secretary Kennedy spoke passionately, as he always does, about the problems with obesity. And just to put some very fine point numbers on this, obesity itself is responsible for half of all chronic disease and definitely generates more than a quarter of all the money we spend out of CMS, the $1.75 trillion that we spend annually. We need to address this tempest of dramatically increasing prices for health care, and you're not going to do it just by throwing money at the problem. You have to actually literally deal with the causes of the increase in price, and pharmaceutical prices are a part of that. They've been a part of it for a long time, but this president insisted that we address it. In fact, the first time I heard this directly from you, sir, was in January at Mar-a-Lago, where he took Secretary Kennedy, myself, Mr. Ricks, who you'll hear from in a second, to dinner. and demanded explanations for most favored nation pricing and what's wrong with it. And there was not a good reason against it. Now, MAHA is critical. America will have to get fit in order to right-size the healthcare system, and MAHA has the answers. It has obesity management through diet and exercise and sleep and dealing with issues related to that. And I want to say it as clear as I can. Obesity is not an absence of GLP-1 drugs. We're all clear on that. But as Secretary Kennedy said, it is an arrow in our quiver that we must use and should use. The MAHA movement means making it easier for the right things to happen, easier for you to be healthy. If you're sitting at home and watching, that's what MAHA means to me. Reducing costs of the #1 most expensive medicine category in our country for Americans does just that. It is as MAHA as it gets. Today's the 4th MFN. President Trump highlighted the first 3. Leading U.S. company, leading European company. We've dropped in fertility drugs who will make lots of Trump babies, I'm hoping, by the midterms. But it's really about fairness. Fundamentally, it's fairness in pricing to Americans who have been getting ripped off, paying 3 times more than their European counterparts for the exact same product made in the same factory, in the same bottle, in the same packaging. We shouldn't be paying 3 times more, and we are no longer doing that. Fairness to the forgotten man also means dealing with the reality that they can afford a life-saving, life-changing drug that 10% or more of affluent Americans take, but folks without means can't manage it. Secretary Kennedy mentioned New York City. It actually, the #1 zip code is the Upper East Side, which is where you have property. And folks who know ritzy areas buy important real estate there because those real estate properties are worth a lot there. That should not be the #1 zip code in America for purchasing GLP-1 drugs. It speaks to the fact that we have an innately unfair system that penalizes folks who can use these medications the most, folks in the Rust Belt. Now, what are you supposed to do if the right thing to do for your health is right there, but you can't afford to get it? Folks need to be able to utilize these life-saving medications, and being fair about its distribution is essential. And we are democratizing access to these medications and dealing with a moral imperative to make sure that all Americans have access to avoiding all the obesity-related complications by making sure they can afford, if they do things right, not just MAHA-appropriate interventions, but also medications like this. In fact, we think these deals, and this part's very important, we believe these deals within 2 years, by the time the ink dries on these contracts that were signed earlier today, within 2 years, based on our health improvements, we will be budget neutral. These drugs will not cost us money. The American taxpayers will be getting their money back. That's how important it is for us to reduce the cost of health care in this country, especially when it's due to preventable problems like obesity. In addition, we have an update, Secretary Kennedy. We thought it was 125 million pounds. Mr. President, our estimate, based on the company numbers as well, is Americans will lose 135 million pounds by the midterms. But I don't measure it in pounds. I measure it in saved lives. People can sleep again because they can breathe as when they go to bed. Folks whose knees don't hurt. People who don't have heart attacks, renal failure, dementia, all the things we know are associated with obesity and much more. This wouldn't have happened if we didn't have the right tools and had the ability with a team that has been spoken of early. So I want to call out Abe Sutton. He's in the back right there. He leads the CMS Innovation Center. It made the deal possible. And they are announcing today a new model, a brand new model aimed at getting to the vulnerable populations amongst us these medications. The forgotten man will be able to afford these drugs now. Governors will be thanking President Trump. They should be calling directly, sir, because they're going to be able to afford Medicaid next year in ways unimaginable, and they will stop crowding out education and other civil services. We cannot be a wealthy nation without being a healthy nation. That's why today's MFN deal is a historic step forward for all America, and this is something that I don't think is partisan. There is no way you can argue against what just happened. These numbers to my side here, Texas Administrator McCary, who's been instrumental in this process as well. $1,350 baseline. Chris Klump will go through the numbers, but just focus on that 245, which is what he's going to point you to. And Chris Klump has been an unbelievable leader, an innovator. You've heard his name before. He's spoken here before, but he is continuing to change the face of CMS. And I love the fact that with his leadership, we're bringing a lot of wonderful people in. Inma Hernandez has been mentioned, John Brooks as well, and many others, including Beth Kelly, who runs the legal issues around these issues, because these guys are barracudas, Mr. President. They will take you down, slice you in little bits. Howard's been there. It's no longer happening. You've got sharp folks. We're open for business. It's a generational opportunity to serve, and people are showing up. God bless you. Let me introduce now Chris Klump, who is just makes my life easier every day. I'm so proud of him.
All great deals are rooted in principles. We've talked about this before, and today we're announcing another truly great deal. I love this deal, and it's rooted in the principle of potential. This is about unlocking the full potential of every American, the grandmother, the grandfather, the father, the son, by unlocking access to affordable life-saving medications that make a meaningful difference in their lives when they need them most. That's what today delivers. It's a deal built on principle, for people, for the American people, and backed by policy that works. So the most important step to getting healthy is believing that your life has value, that God meant for each of us to have purpose and joy and to live fully. And to do that, we must be good stewards of our body. And the president has been fighting to provide another tool to do just this and enable this. And it's my pleasure to get to outline the contours of the deal today. So first and foremost, customary with the three prior announcements, all of the customary most favored nation terms that you've grown familiar with apply to these two deals. So this is actually deals 4 and 5. Full Medicaid portfolios today at most favored nation prices. Shared savings from existing drug prices in Europe deployed back to the United States. All primary care drugs at U.S. net prices or most favored nation prices available on Trump RX before the end of the year. And most importantly, all future drug launches across commercial, Medicaid, Medicare, and the cash markets at most favored nation prices going forward. Now, GLP-1s. So first, under this agreement, starting doses of oral GLP-1s will cost just $149 a month for everyone. That's roughly 1/8 the cost of the list price today. For Medicare, manufacturers are voluntarily reducing their prices for GLP-1s currently used for diabetes and other covered indications to $245 per month across all doses. The savings generated from this change in prices will be used to provide new coverage to obesity and those who struggle with obesity and also have high metabolic or cardiovascular risk. Again, all for the same $245 a month. That means Americans struggling with diabetes and obesity, with heart disease, or other chronic conditions can access these life-changing drugs more affordably. Medicare patients, importantly, will only pay $50 a month for a copay. This is a massive reduction from what happens today. For Medicaid, Novo and Lilly have agreed to extend the same new low government pricing to all 50 state Medicaid programs should they opt in. And we encourage them to opt in. And these will be available not just for diabetes and current covered indications, but also for obesity again. And in case you're getting tired of me saying it, at the same price of $245 a month, all covered doses. On Trump RX, the average price of injectables and orals will start at $350 on average. That's compared to roughly $500 today. And that will trend down to, you guessed it, the same $245 a month over the next 24 months. That is 1/5 of the list price. It is 1/2 of the best price in the United States today. We're hoping, Mr. President, that your friend who has to travel to England to afford these drugs will no longer need to do so and can come and do it in the United States. I'll also just mention that the $149 is $1 less than what you asked us to achieve. Just gonna make sure that's clear. So I want to highlight two other really important points that make me love this deal so very much. First, this isn't about spending more, it's about spending smarter. The savings from the diabetes drug price reductions are being used in a cost-neutral way to fund the new indications for taxpayers. That's amazing, and that happens inside of that same 24-month period. It's cost-neutral. We're spending the money more wisely. But second, this isn't just about lower drug prices for Americans, though it does do that, but together with physical activity, with healthy eating and diet, and where appropriate, the use of breakthrough GLP-1s, the real return on investment is healthier Americans, lower chronic disease, lower costs, we estimate by tens of billions of dollars a year, and most importantly, higher productivity. Today is about freeing Americans from the weight, literally and figuratively, that holds us back. It's about unlocking the potential of every citizen to live fully, to contribute fully, and to find joy in their health. We cannot reach our full potential as a nation if we do not reach our full potential as individuals. And we cannot reach our full potential as individuals if we are not healthy. Thanks to Nova and Lily for showing up so constructively over the last several months to make this possible. In particular, thanks to you, Mr. President, for again demonstrating that you fight for every American, this time for potential. It's now my sincere pleasure to first introduce Dave Ricks from Lilly and then Mike Dustow from Nova.
Great. Thank you, Chris. It's truly an honor to be here today for this historic step forward to expand access to a class of medications that can fundamentally change the arc of chronic disease in our country. Of course, these are the incretin or GLP-1 agonist that we've been speaking about. For nearly 150 years, my company, Eli Lilly, has been investing in America. We've been advancing science and creating high-value jobs. But today, are you okay? Gordon, you okay? Yeah.
And that is an unfortunate situation to have at the White House. We hope that everyone is okay in that moment. As the new plans for Ozempic and other drugs going down, as we were talking earlier, with pharmaceutical prices going down in that with the Department of Health and Human Services. Dr. Marty Makary on hand, RFK Jr., also with Dr. Oz and cabinet members there with President Trump. We will close out this stream. We hope that everyone is okay there in the White House in these moments. Thoughts and prayers with the staff there. Get all America First updates and exclusive offers right here at rsbnetwork.com/newsletter. For all my colleagues, I'm Robert McNeely. Stay tuned tonight. We'll have a special playing of the Voice of Reason a little bit earlier tonight, probably around that 5 o'clock Eastern or so hour. As at 6:30, Matthew Alvarez in for a dinner tonight. President Trump hosting Central Asian countries. Have a wonderful rest of your day. In the meantime, enjoy some beautiful sunshine and then come back with us in the prime time on this Thursday, November 6th. For all my colleagues here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, I'm Robert McNeely. God bless you, and we'll see you very soon.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from the Diamond and Silk Chit Chat live show. Look, don't forget to check me out right here on RSBN Network. Be sure to watch the show on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. Yes, it's imperative that you do so, okay? I look to see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. You can scan that QR code now, RSBN10. That is the code, easy to remember, for 10% off. This is ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, antibiotics that will save you and yours from bacterial and viral infections, NAD+, and much, much more. 200 essential medications and emergency medical kits, the meds you trust delivered to your door.